Chapter 1638. After returning to the sect of all times, Jun Changshao arranged for the mother of Dao Stone to be properly settled. This thing could nurture Dao Stones, but like the mother of real stone, it would take a long time, so it would not be able to bring about any benefits in a short period of time. To put it bluntly, the predecessor planted the tree, and the successor enjoyed the shade. Patriarch Jin Dejuan sent a sound transmission. Grand Elder has a major breakthrough. Oh? Jun Changshao hurried to the array hall. As soon as he walked in, he saw the old man Taixien leaning over the table filled with array diagrams, laughing loudly. He became a father. Master, what's going on? Come here quickly, let me show you something. As the Daoist Master Taixien spoke, he organized the array diagrams, then took out the first page and began to introduce. This is an array that was copied from the inside of the Star Spirit World's battleship. After my unremitting efforts, I finally found the law of operation. Didn't you already find it? Jun Changshao said. The old man Taixien shook his head and said, previously, my understanding of their array system was only the tip of the iceberg. Now, I can't say that I have completely grasped it, but I understand at least 60 to 70%. Amazing! Jun Changshao gave a thumbs up and said, as expected of a 10,000-year-old single technical geek. It was fine to say that he was a technical geek, but why did he have to add 10,000 years of being single? Master, Jun Changshao said, is there any benefit in mastering the Star Spirit World's array system? You finally asked the right question. The old man Taixien flipped open another blueprint and said, this is the battleship array formation that I recently copied. There were many strange lines on the blueprint, and the notes were densely packed. This made Jun Changshao feel as if he was reading a heavenly book. Shwa! The old man Taixien flipped open the third and fourth sheets one after another, and said excitedly, as long as I can find high-grade ores and combine them with these arrays, I am confident that I can build a battleship. Hearing this, Jun Changshao's eyes gradually widened. Building a battleship? This thought and idea had never appeared in his mind before. Really? Really? The old man from Taixien then added, however, the quality of the ore must be high, or it will be difficult to withstand space travel. The advantage of the battleships of the Star Spiritual Realm was that they could soar in the upper universe, so he wanted to create a battleship of this standard, not a battleship like Jinren Tonggu that could fly around the plane. Continue your research. Jun Changshao said, I'll deal with the high-grade ores. If the old man Taixien could build a battleship, it would mean that he could have a huge fleet in the future, and then travel to the vast upper universe, and even attack the astral spirit world. Scientific research was beneficial to both the sect and oneself. They had to support him regardless of cost and effort. Besides, the old man Taixien continued, the formation system of the astral soul realm has inspired me. I can completely modify Diablo and make it stronger. How strong can he be? At the very least, 5th or 6th refinement quests shouldn't be a problem. Jun Changshao's eyes lit up again. Although the current Diablo had been upgraded many times, due to the restrictions of the formation, its berserk mode was only comparable to the second stage. If its overall strength was increased to the 5th or 6th stage, its overall strength would definitely increase by a lot. Then don't build a battleship for now. Jun Changshao said, hurry up and study how to improve the mech's combat power. Forming a huge fleet for interstellar travel, there was still a main mission that had yet to be completed. It was destined to be a matter of the future, so there was no need to rush. Upgrading the Diablo was different. After all, they had snatched the Dao Stone Mine of the 10 great immortal sects, so they might make some moves. If the strength of the sect's mech increased, it would undoubtedly be better to deal with them. Alright. The old man from Taixien said, I'll study the mech first. However, although the astral soul realm's formation is strong, everything is built on energy. When the time comes, don't be reluctant to use the Dao Stone. As long as I can research it, I'm willing to use the immortal stones. Done. After getting his guarantee, the old man from Taixien summoned Jin Dejuan, Shangguan Xinyao, and the other core members of the Array Hall to temporarily set up a new generation mech research group. Phew! Returning to his residence, Jun Changshao put his feet on the table and opened the epic mission. Seeing that there were still 3 months left before the settlement date, he thought to himself, there should be more than enough. As expected. In the next month, the upper echelons and disciples entered the simulation battlefield to cultivate, and their realms could be said to be rising steadily. Ding! Upper echelon, middle realm, 105. Ding! Core disciple, lower realm, 3210. Hearing that all the values were steadily exceeding, a bright smile appeared on Jun Changxiao's face. According to his experience over the years, as long as the epic mission value exceeded the limit, he would be given higher experience and items. There might be a big breakthrough after this settlement. Not enough. Continue to cultivate. In order to reach the limit, Jun Changshao temporarily stopped letting the inner and outer disciples enter. Instead, he let the upper echelons and core disciples enter first to strive for the final sprint and complete the epic mission. Li Luoqiu, Elder Wei, and the other hall masters also belonged to the upper echelons, so they naturally had to be arranged to enter. There were even more core disciples. For example, Mu Honglian, Chu Xiaonan, and Hualing Ding. Upper echelon, middle realm, 145. Ding! Core disciple, lower realm, 4010. As time passed, the levels of the upper echelons and disciples continued to increase, and the mission limit also broke new highs again and again. Gou Sheng was a little embarrassed. His current realm was only the lower realm. Looking at the entire sect, the number of upper echelons and disciples who were stronger than him had already broken double. Sigh. Jun Changshao sighed helplessly. If this epic mission can't help me skip a level, how can I face them who are higher level than me in the future? The host has no face. The system said, don't worry about that. Jun Changshao ignored this crazy complaining demon and came to the courtyard opposite. Seeing that the woman who was trimming the roses was different from before, he said rather sadly, you've broken through to the middle realm? Yes. Rose of Flowers turned around, flicked the black hair on her forehead, and said with a smile, thanks to the simulation battlefield prepared by my husband, I successfully broke through to the middle realm yesterday. Oh, right. Are you still in the lower realm? Ding! Dealt critical damage to target Gou Sheng x 99,999. Hee. Jun Changshao laughed dryly, then clutched his aching chest and left. Boom! Boom! On the field outside the War Cavalry Hall, Zhong Yi, who was piloting Mech No. 1, was fighting with Jing Ji, who was piloting Mech No. 66. The two of them had mastered the operation of Diablo, and the process of fighting could be described as brilliant and colorful. Not bad. Jun Changshao, who was sitting in front of the stage, had a satisfied smile on his face. These two mechs had been specially modified. The internal formation system was taken from the star spirit world, and the energy source was changed from real stones to Dao stones. The combat power that erupted was not inferior to the 5th or 6th transformation of the core realm. The technology is mature. The Taishian old man said, it can be popularized to other mechs. Finish the modification as soon as possible. Jun Changshao jumped down from the chair, looked at the distant sky with his hands behind his back, and said, I have a feeling that something is going to happen soon. Patriarch. At this time, Li Luoqiu hurried over and said, according to the informants, the powerhouses of the 10 major celestial sects have appeared in the East Sea one after another. Oh? Jun Changshao became vigilant. In fact, after robbing the mineral veins of the 10 major celestial sects, he had a hunch that the other party would not let it go. Now that they suddenly made a move, perhaps they were coming for him. Except for the entrance of the stone statue race and the dragon race, there doesn't seem to be anything in the East Sea, right? Damn! Jun Changshao slapped his forehead and said in shock, the 10 major celestial sects can't be thinking of sealing off the 2 ancestral lands and then directly attacking the sect of all times. Chapter 1639. There were many teleportation arrays in the East Sea, and the Drizzle Hall would send members to check every once in a while to see if there was any unintentional or intentional sabotage. The people of the 10 great immortal sects would be easily discovered if they appeared here. After receiving the information, Jun Changshao guessed that they were planning to seal the ancestral lands of the dragon and stone statue races. In fact, Gosheng knew better than anyone that they could challenge the 10 great immortal sects because they had the support of the two races. If he were in their shoes, he would definitely get rid of the other party's helpers first if he wanted to destroy a threatening opponent. Moreover, the immortal sects had sealed the demonic territory 100,000 years ago, so it was normal for them to do the same thing again. What a pity. Jun Changshao clasped his hands together and said coldly, "Not only do I control the 3 races, but I also control the 4th race." The Vermilion Bird King that he had just subdued was not weaker than Gongsun Ruoli after 100,000 years of nirvana. Even if he sealed the 2 races, he would not be afraid. "I hope you are going to the East Sea to play." Jun Changshao was not willing to fall out with the 10 great immortal sects now, because he wanted to keep a low profile and then crush them with his strength. Patriarch. The next day, Li Luoqiu reported, "The 10 great immortal sects have divided into 2 groups and stopped at the entrance of the stone statue territory and the dragon race." "It's obvious." Rows of Flowers said, "They want to seal the 2 races." Sigh. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "It seems that I have no choice. They are clearly targeting you, so no matter how unwilling you are, you can only fight. Inform Qingyang and Sinner." "Yes." Not long after, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the other core disciples came to the main hall. Under the Patriarch's arrangement, they entered the teleportation array and walked to the entrance of the ancestral land where their contracted beasts were. "The 10 great immortal sects want to seal the 2 races." "Fine. I don't expect them to be my helpers, but I can count on the thousands of races. Seal them all if you can." Thunder Chestnut Region. Li Qingyang walked over with his life-bonded contract beast. His thoughts immediately returned to the 2 years of bitter cultivation, and a smile gradually appeared on his face. "Brat!" One of the Thunder Rhombus race's higher echelon flew over and scolded, "What are you doing here?" Their clan's treasure had been stolen. Although they had reconciled with each other later on, and although they had gone to the Eternal Sect to help when they encountered a calamity in the upper realm, deep down, they were still quite annoyed and did not like the Eternal Sect. "Senior." Li Qingyang cupped his hands and said, "Little Lei is homesick, so I brought him here to take a look." "Humph." The higher-ups of the Thunder Rhombus race snorted coldly, but when their eyes locked onto the little guy surrounded by lightning arcs, their eyes suddenly widened. "No. Did he see wrongly?" He hurriedly rubbed his eyes and observed Li Qingyang's contract beast again. After confirming it, he could no longer suppress his shock and said, "The lower level of the truth-seeking realm?" "That's right. Lower truth-seeking stage." This was the benefit of a life contract. As long as either side improved, it would promote the other's cultivation. Li Qingyang cultivated in the simulated battlefield and advanced to the lower level of the truth-seeking realm, and the little Thunder Rhombus naturally benefited from it. It had only been a few years since it hatched. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. In the clan hall of the Thunder Rhombus city, the Patriarch and the higher-ups were all shocked after examining the little Thunder Rhombus beast. Li Qingyang said, "I know you hate me because I'm not worthy of signing a life contract with Little Lei, and I'll even hinder its future." The higher-ups of the Thunder Rhombus race were speechless. Indeed. At first, they were not optimistic about Li Qingyang. Signing a life contract was a burden. But now, they were slapped in the face because this little guy had broken through to the lower level of the truth-seeking realm in just a few years. Even if the clan gave him the best martial arts resources, it was impossible to do so. In fact, Li Qingyang said proudly, "Little Lei will only achieve more if it follows me." He was considered normal in the sect of all times, but at this moment, it was as if he had been possessed by Gosheng. Whether it was his body movements or words, they were all very arrogant. There was no other way. One would be stained by the company one kept. No matter how normal a person was, after being with Jun Changshao for a long time, they would be subtly influenced. Kid. The patriarch of the Thunder Rhombus race suppressed his shock and said, "Did you come to my ancestral land to show off?" "No." Li Qingyang said, "I'm here to ask for a favor." "What is it?" "Help the sect of all times fight against the celestial sects." As soon as he said this, the expressions of the higher-ups in the clan hall changed. For the sake of the little Thunder Rhombus beast's rapid improvement, it was not impossible to help the sect of all times, but fighting against the 10 celestial sects was extremely serious. "I'm sorry." The patriarch of the Thunder Rhombus race shook his head and said, "The Thunder Rhombus race can't help." Of course, you can also think that the Thunder Rhombus race can't afford to offend the celestial sects. "I'm a coward. I'll be honest." The 10 celestial sects had absolute authority in the upper world. Moreover, the Thunder Rhombus race was destroyed 100,000 years ago. Although the Thunder Rhombus race was strong, there was still a big gap between them and the 3 major races. Li Qingyang said, "Because of the rules set by the celestial sects, the thousands of races rarely leave the ancestral land. If this restriction is removed, you will be more free." The patriarch and the higher-ups of the Thunder Rhombus race widened their eyes. They could tell that the sect of all times was not asking them to fight against the 10 celestial sects, but to overthrow them. "My sect just received news that the celestial sects' powerhouses went to the East Sea and are preparing to seal the ancestral land of the Stone Statue race and the Dragon race," Li Qingyang said. "There is such a thing?" The patriarch of the Thunder Rhombus race was shocked. Li Qingyang said, "The 10 celestial sects are the hegemons of the world. They can destroy and seal whoever they want. If they target the Thunder Rhombus race in the future, won't you be sitting ducks?" The patriarch of the Thunder Rhombus race fell silent. "Senior." Li Qingyang cupped his hands and said, "My patriarch asked me to pass on a message to you. Although the strength of one person is weak, the will of the people is as strong as a fortress." These 2 sentences resounded throughout the race hall. Ice Phoenix Domain. Lu Qianqian, who was dressed in white like a fairy, stood in the race hall. Her life contract beast stood beside her, its ice-like feathers shining brightly. A moment later, the patriarch of the Ice Phoenix race said, "Your patriarch is a courageous person. He dares to fight against the 10 celestial sects." "Not so." Lu Qianqian said, "He won't bring our sect to ascend." "Okay." The patriarch of the Ice Phoenix race said, "Go back and tell June Patriarch that our Ice Phoenix race is willing to help. Goodbye." Lu Qianqian left with her contract beast. It could be said that she was a woman of few words. After watching her leave, a senior member of the race said, "Patriarch, this matter concerns the future of our race. Isn't it too hasty to agree? Help Jun Changshao." The patriarch of the Ice Phoenix race said solemnly, "This is the future of our race." In such a short time, the successor of the race had broken through to the lower truth-seeking realm. She was willing to use the power of the race to help the sect of all times fight against the 10 celestial sects. Only by winning could they have a better future. Su Xiaoma, Li Fei, and the others also entered the ancestral land where the contract beasts were. Their purpose was to persuade them to help the sect. I won't describe the process, in case it's too lame. However, there was one person who had to be mentioned. That was the second male lead of the book, Yi Xingchen. At this moment, he was in the Panhu race hall, holding a sword to the neck of his husk-like contract beast and roaring, "If you don't go, it will die. Don't be rash. Don't be rash." The patriarch and senior members of the Panhu race panicked. Chapter 1640. In the Sect of All Times. Jun Changshao sat in the main hall. The 10 great celestial sects were preparing to seal the 2 races. It was obvious that they were about to make a move. He definitely could not compromise and had to fight them head-on. "Patriarch," Li Luoqiu reported, "they've already started to set up the seal." Gong Sun Ho said anxiously, "Hurry up and inform the races to stop them." No need. Jun Changshao said, I'll let them seal it. Gong Sun Ho was dumbfounded. Jun Changshao jumped down and said proudly with his hands behind his back, the 10 great celestial sects think that the sect of all times has the support of the two races. That's why they sealed the ancestral land. I want them to understand that without the help of the stone statue race and the dragon race, they can't do anything to me. Domineering, arrogant. Alright, Gong Sun Ho did not say anything else, but he muttered in his heart, if they're sealed, how will the races come out in the future? Some people would say that they had to rely on teleportation formations. Actually, this was wrong because teleportation formations only existed on some islands in the East Sea and did not extend to small worlds. The reason was that technology was not enough to support it. Husband. Rose of Flowers said seriously, don't be careless. She hoped to stop the 10 great celestial sects from sealing the ancestral land of the two races and then gather the forces of the various races to fight against them. Everyone thinks that the sect of all times is a pushover, but they don't know. Jun Changshao waved his hand, and a simple sword appeared out of thin air. He said with a cold gaze, we still have many trump cards. Not to mention the celestial sects, even the celestial sects have nothing to fear. This is Ryu Sinan and Gong Sun Ho said. The sword was simple and unadorned, but the aura it emitted made them think that it was extraordinary. Jun Changshao put one hand on the sword hilt and said proudly, this is the sect's treasure left behind by our ancestors, the supreme celestial sword. Bah! The system could not hold back. Clang, the sound of the sword being unsheathed was incomparably crisp. Everyone hurriedly widened their eyes and looked over. They saw that it was an ordinary sword. The body of the sword was as plain as the scabbard, but there were small lines on it, as if they contained some kind of meaning. As for the blade, it was not opened. You didn't sharpen it? Ryu Sinan and Gong Sun Ho murmured to themselves. Only a sharpened sword could be considered a real sword. How could an unsharpened sword be so lethal? Since the patriarch had taken it out and called it the sect's treasure, it definitely couldn't be underestimated. Perhaps it possessed heaven-shaking might. On a mountain peak somewhere. Zhou Hong entered a meditative state like an old monk. As one of the few disciples in the sect who specialized in swordsmanship, he had almost no camera time in the upper realm. There was no other way. There was a different path to the sword Dao, and every day was a dry and dull process of comprehension. Naturally, there wouldn't be much time to describe it, unless it was time to level up. Just as Jun Changshao pulled out the supreme celestial sword, Zhou Hong felt some kind of power. He suddenly opened his eyes, and joy appeared on his weathered face. He said, I've comprehended it, I've comprehended it. Hoo. Sword chi filled the air, piercing through heaven and earth. On this day, sword light suddenly appeared in the sect of all times and merged with the sky. It could be clearly seen from tens of thousands of miles away. Not bad, not bad. Jun Changshao walked out of the main hall and saw the sword light soaring into the sky. A gratified smile appeared on his face. In the situation where the sect was generally cheating, only Zhou Hong persevered and focused on comprehending swordsmanship. He finally succeeded in entering the lower level of the truth-seeking realm. TSK Ma Yongning, who was leaning against the kitchen door, looked disdainful. As a swordsman, he rarely used the sect's resources. At this moment, although he hadn't reached the truth-seeking realm, he was already very close. What he lacked was the key comprehension and opportunity. Husband. Rose of Flowers walked over and said, even the sword nerd has caught up. When will you break through to the middle level of the truth-seeking realm? Jun Changshao, who was immersed in joy, suddenly felt as if thousands of arrows had pierced through his heart. He immediately clutched his chest and returned to the study, leaning on the table and almost crying out loud. With the appearance of the simulated battlefield, the strength of the sect had improved by leaps and bounds. Only he, the patriarch, had remained in the same place for almost 2 years. Epic level mission. Give me the reward now. A few days later. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others returned to the sect of all times with the news that the clans of their contracted beasts were willing to help them fight against the 10 celestial sects. In fact, this result was inevitable. Junior brother Yi. Su Xiaoma asked in surprise, "Why is there a sword mark on your neck?" "Don't ask." Yi Xingqian said, "I don't want to say." At the Panhu ancestral land, he had placed the sword on his contracted beast's neck. But after reading the comments of the readers in this chapter, he immediately placed the sword on his own neck. After all, if he died, the husky would die too. This method was simple and crude, but it was also effective. The Panhu patriarch immediately agreed. "Everything is ready." Jun Changshao put his leg on the table and said calmly, "Just wait for the 10 celestial sects to come to the sect of all times." Above the East Sea, the 10 celestial sects had sent a large number of array masters to set up a complicated sealing array. Their every move was under Jun Changshao's control, but they didn't send anyone to stop or sabotage it. This was a missed opportunity. Sealing a domain is not a small task. The Taishan old man analyzed, it will take at least a few months. A few months? Jun Changshao thought to himself, the mission has been completed long ago. The real reason why he didn't stop the celestial sects from sealing the 2 clans' ancestral lands was the completion of the epic mission. Maybe he could improve by leaps and bounds. The mission completion standards were 1, 5, and 10. Now, not only did he meet all the standards, he even exceeded them. According to past experience, the completion rate was at least 500%. Even if he couldn't break through to the peak of the truth-seeking realm, he could at least reach the upper level. Also, the author's father gave him the ability to skip levels. Wouldn't it be easy to beat them then? You can beat 10 of them? The system asked. Jun Changshao fell silent. If he was at the upper level of the truth-seeking realm, he might be able to beat 1 peak, but not 10. Time passed. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, ding. The epic mission has been completed. After waiting for a long time, Jun Changshao finally heard the beautiful notification sound. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully increasing the strength of the sect within 2 years, meeting the requirements. The epic mission has been completed. Completion rate, 1000%. The host has received 20,000 reputation points. Ding! Sect reputation points, 31,000. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the Upper Realm Epic Mission 6. The host has received Seal Opening Talisman X1, Supreme Item Purchase Right X1, Heavenly Spirit Quenching or X 100 tons. That's it? After hearing the reward, Jun Changshao was speechless. A completion rate of 1000% only gave him 20,000 reputation points, a supreme item, and 100 tons of some ore. It was simply not proportional to the previous 500% reward. Be content. The system said, just the supreme item alone is enough to kill all of them. That's true. Thinking of the sure kill and simulated battlefield, the value of the supreme item was indeed very high. Perhaps he could get another item that could help the sect improve. Swish! Jun Changshao walked out of the study, jumped onto the roof, and put on a coquettish posture. The 3 points and item rewards given by the epic mission were just appetizers. The real deal was still the improvement of the realm. Now that the completion rate was 1000%, it would be a bit unreasonable if he did not break through from the lower level to the upper level. Ding! The host has successfully broken through to the middle level of the truth-seeking realm. Ding! The host has successfully broken through to the upper level of the truth-seeking realm. Ding! The host has successfully broken through to the peak of the truth-seeking realm. As the frequent notifications sounded in his ears, Jun Changshao's young body changed again and again until his cultivation stabilized at the peak of the truth-seeking realm. He also returned to his adult appearance before he sacrificed his lifespan. Even his bald head grew out black and elegant hair. That hot man was back. Chapter 1641. After 2 years, not only did he successfully complete the epic mission 6, but his completion rate also reached 1000%, setting a new record. Not to mention the reward, just breaking through to the peak from the lower position was already so terrifying. Not to mention that he was a cheater, he was letting down all the martial artists in the upper realm. As expected, Jun Changshao floated on the roof and clasped his hands together. A breeze blew over, blowing away his black hair that seemed to have been dyed black after his rebirth. His chiseled face appeared. He said, "The process of becoming strong is so simple and boring." The system promptly complained, "For a person like the host, it's a miracle that he can break through to the martial king level in the lower realm without relying on missions. Am I arrogant?" It was true that Go Sheng had grown up to this point, and most of his realm improvement came from the epic missions and experience talismans. However, he also had his difficulties. He was in charge of the entire sect, and he was both the father and the mother. If he followed the traditional way to level up, how could he complete the main mission? Swish! Jun Changshao landed in front of the sect hall and said with a majestic voice, 10 immortal sects, I'll be waiting for you." After breaking through to the peak, his tone changed. This. Very Go Sheng. However, after opening the store skillfully, he saw that the new supreme item was priced at 22,000 reputation points. He couldn't help but curse, "Fuck, I'll have to pay another 2,000. Ding! The host has spent 22,000 reputation points and obtained supreme item X1. It has been transferred to the space ring. Ding! Sect reputation points, 9,000. No matter how expensive this thing was, Jun Changshao had to buy it. He didn't touch it immediately because it was like a lottery, it depended on luck and timing. He had to take a bath and burn incense before opening it when he was free tomorrow. The reward of 100 tons of ore should be useful. Jun Changshao thought about it and got up to go to the array hall. The patriarch has returned to his original appearance. On the way, the disciples stopped and discussed. Sigh. Rose of Flowers also saw it and shook her head, he still looks like a child. He looks cute. Jun Changshao heard that and the corner of his mouth twitched. In fact, he didn't expect that the continuous breakthroughs in his cultivation would lead to the recovery of his body. Master. After entering the Hall of Arrays, Jun Changshao took out a shiny piece of ore and said, "Come and take a look at the quality of this." The Taishan old man put down the drawing in his hand and looked at it carefully. He was quite surprised and asked, "What is this?" Heavenly Spirit Quenching Oregon, Sky Spirit Quenching Ore. The Taishan elder had some understanding of the various ores in the upper realm, but he had never heard of this name before. Jun Changshao asked, "Can it be used to build warships?" The epic mission reward was 100 tons of ores. The first thing that came to his mind was a battleship. After all, his master had mentioned that he needed high-grade ores. Go ask Hall Master Fan. The Taishan old man said, "It depends on the quality." He was engrossed in the study of array formations and was not very proficient in the field of ores. All right. Jun Changshao went to the foundry hall again. The reason why he had to go in person was that Fan Yezi would be busy making the second-generation warframes until late at night. Other than eating, drinking, and going to the toilet, he had no time at all. Forging hall. The smell of metal filled the air. Jun Changshao walked in from outside. Fan Yezi was studying the mold wholeheartedly. The moldy steamed bun on the table had already dried. Go Sheng, who was standing in front of the door, gradually smiled. He liked to see his employees busy because it allowed him to see himself working hard for the sect and worrying for the sect. Pfft! Fan Yezi spat out a mouthful of blood. He was in charge of the mech battle armor and studied it day and night. It could be said that he was truly working his heart out. Seeing this, Jun Changshao felt deeply guilty. He silently called Sun Bukong over and was responsible for a full-body examination while reminding him to work harder and strive to complete the year-end mission target. Under the boss's encouragement, Fan Yezi worked even harder until he fainted again and was rescued in front of the table. If a sect wanted to succeed, it could not do without the simple and boring work of its employees. Patriarch. This ore of yours is good stuff. Fan Yezi held a piece of heavenly spirit-quenching ore, his eyes shining with excitement. As an expert in forging, he could feel the quality of this ore just by touching it. There was no problem in refining weapons and protective equipment. Can you make a warship? What do you want to make? A warship. The kind like Eternal? That's right. Fan Yezi rolled his eyes and said, it's already not easy to make a complete set of armor with a piece of ore that weighs 2 to 3 caddies. Patriarch can forget about making a warship. I have the materials. How much? 100 tons. 100 tons. Fan Yezi's eyes widened. He had a very high understanding of the upper realm's ores. Although he had never heard of the one in his hand, it was at least not inferior to immortal grade. Patriarch had 100 tons, stop joking. Boom! In the large warehouse used to store ores on Forging Peak, Jun Changshao waved his hand and 100 tons of heavenly spirit-quenching ore appeared out of thin air. Its scale was comparable to a small mountain. Oh my god, Fan Yezi's eyes almost popped out. Jun Changshao asked, I want to use this ore to make a warship. Do you think it will work? Yes. With so many high-quality ores, as long as the technique was superb, in Fan Yezi's opinion, not to mention one warship, even 10 warships would not be a problem. However, he said with a solemn expression, the 10 immortal sects will attack at any time. Why not make the ores into weapons and equipment? That works too. Jun Changshao was not in a hurry to make a warship. If it could be turned into equipment, it would naturally be excellent to increase the sect's strength. Fan Yezi said, the sect has ready-made battle armor machines and a complete battle armor system. As long as the plan is set, we can make the 3rd-generation battle armor in a short time. How strong is it? It will definitely be better than the 2nd generation. He was very confident because of the high grade of the ores. Okay. Jun Changshao said, I will give you 50 tons of ores. Make the 3rd-generation battle armor in the shortest time possible. What about the other 50 tons? Of course, to make the mecha. That works. The raw materials of the Diablo were not very high quality. Its super strong defense was due to the internal array system. If it was made with the sky spirit quenching ores, its level would definitely increase by several levels. Jun Changshao went to ask the Taishan elder, and he naturally did not have any objections. Therefore, the forging hall was busier than usual. Many members of the array formation hall were sent to participate in the research of the battle armor and mecha. Even Mao Xiaodao, who cleaned the toilet, was no exception. They wanted to make substantial progress in the shortest time possible. Ft. Ft. The sound of people working hard could be heard in the workshop. Jun Changshao stood in front of the door and watched the disciples working hard with drips. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. This was life. The sect of all times was busy, but the 10 immortal sects were not idle either. According to preliminary estimates, it would take about 1 or 2 months to seal the stone statue race and the dragon race. The patriarch of the Lingtian immortal sect sat in the main hall and sneered. Jun Changshao, can you still fly if I cut off your wings? Dragon territory. Jun Changshao sat in the dragon palace and said, the 10 immortal sects have their eyes on the sect of all times. You don't need to care about this. I will take care of them beautifully. Damn! How did this guy get in? Of course, he relied on the main battleship of the astral spirit world. Such technological products could be forcefully flown to the lower realm, so it was naturally easy for them to silently integrate into the small world. In that case, the 10 immortal sects outside were extremely busy, but they still could not stop Jun Changshao from maintaining contact with the 2 races. In the end, it was nothing more than drawing water with a sieve. Chapter 1642. The Dragon Clan and the Stone Statue Clan were almost isolated from the upper realm. They would not open the Whirlpool Passage except for normal matters, so they had no idea that someone had set up a seal outside. Of course. Since the 10 immortal sects came to seal, if they knew that everyone was standing on the sea looking at each other, the scene would be awkward. Moreover, this was not the first time they had done this. They had done it when dealing with the demonic clan. Even someone as strong as the demon ancestor had fallen for it. In fact, even if the seal was successful, it would not last for long, because the immortal sect's current ability was not enough to replicate the glory of their predecessors. This involved the problem of improvement only when there was competition. Back then, the demon ancestor's existence threatened the entire upper realm. Their predecessors did not care about the cost and the price to study the sealing technique. After he was destroyed, the younger generation no longer had a threat and began to gradually become tired. It did not matter. The original intention was not to completely seal off the two clans. As long as they delayed for a while, it would be enough to destroy the sect of all times. However, the miserable 10 immortal sects would never have thought that Jun Changshao would actually sneak in on the Eternal without knowing. The most ridiculous thing was that he even told the Dragon Clan not to participate and that he could solve it himself. How arrogant was that? Okay. Long Outyan said, I'll listen to the Patriarch. Go ahead. Jun Changshao got up and said, I still have to go to the stone statue domain. This time, he did not use the Eternal's ability to travel through the void. After all, it would cost a lot of resources to activate it, so he chose to set off from the Stone Dragon Highway. Stone Statue Domain, Clan Hall. Jun Changshao sat on the clan leader's seat. The 3 ministers and the civil and military officials bowed and shouted, Welcome back, clan leader. Everyone, please rise. Being the clan leader and being the patriarch were 2 completely different experiences. This made Jun Changshao feel a little smug. Of course. He did not come here to enjoy the worship. He immediately told them about the immortal sect's sealing. What? After hearing the news, the Grand Tutor was furious. How dare they seal the Stone Statue Clan? This is intolerable. Let's go. Let's go out and fight them. The officials were furious. They were only waiting for the clan leader's order to fight with the 10 immortal sects. Ancestral land. This was a very serious matter. Jun Changshao waved his hand and said, if they want to confer ancestral lands, then let them do so. Ah! The 3 dukes and 9 ministers were dumbfounded. The 10 great immortal sects want to cut off the connection between us. I'll do as they wish. Completing the epic quest and breaking through the peak of the truth-seeking realm gave Jun Changshao greater confidence. The best way to defeat the enemy was to let them think that victory was in their grasp. In the end, they would come looking for trouble and lose miserably, losing so badly that they wouldn't even have their underwear left. Kakik. Every time Jun Changshao thought of the 10 great immortal sects coming to him for trouble and being tortured by him at the foot of the mountain, he couldn't help but cover his face and laugh sinisterly. Come on, come on. I can't help but want to slap your faces. Ling Tian's Celestial Sect. The 10 big shots sat in the hall. During this period of time, they had a small meeting every 3 days and a large meeting every 5 days to discuss how to deal with the sect of all times. The dog exterminating operation this time was led by the Lingtian Immortal Sect. Just the meeting alone cost at least 1 million magnetite. In my opinion, the easiest way is to send the elites and powerhouses of the sect to attack the sect of all times directly after sealing off the 2 clans and not give them any chance to recover, the Patriarch of the Hidden Immortal Sect said. We have to have a proper reason. Yes, we can't let the world gossip about us. In the past, the reason for exterminating the demonic clan was that it was a disaster to the common people. The sect of all times came to the upper realm and killed them directly without doing anything bad. What would the world think of the immortal sect? It was alright. At least they followed the rules. If it was the evil sect, they would definitely not follow the procedures. Jun Changshao is extremely arrogant. It seems like it's very easy for him to have a conflict with the other sects, the patriarch of the Supreme Immortal Sect said as he winked. Everyone immediately understood his intention. Magnificent Heaven Sect. The patriarch Lin Shangyi paced back and forth in the study. The elders beside him had serious expressions. Everyone. After a while, he stopped and said in a serious tone, "What should we do? Since the Immortal Sect has given the order, we can't refuse. We can only obey." Sigh. Lin Shangyi shook his head and said, "Why would such a difficult task fall on our Magnificent Heaven Sect? Just now, the 10 major immortal sects sent an encrypted letter. The content was to find a way to have a conflict with the sect of all times. The bigger the matter, the better." Naturally, the Magnificent Heaven Sect had heard of Jun Changshao and knew that his master was Senior Tonggu. If it was in the past, they would definitely not dare to offend him. Now that there was an order from above, they could only obey. The true sect had appeared before. The true sect had not appeared before. Today, not only did they appear, but they were also ordered to cause trouble. As expected, if they did not appear, they would not appear. Once they appeared, they would cause trouble for the main character. The trick was too obvious. Sect of all times. Ka ka ka. Bang bang bang. On the assembly line, the disciples were operating skillfully. Pieces of parts were produced and piled up in a fixed area. They were sorted and assembled by professionals. The camera gradually moved to the workshop. A few lines of words were written on the wall: excellence, quality casting. Pft. Mao Xiaodao vomited blood and fainted on the ground. Quick, quick. Sun Bukong waved his hand and said, "Pull him out for emergency treatment." Swoosh. A few medical hall members hurried over and quickly carried the patient onto a stretcher. A medical staff followed to perform CPR and faintly heard Mao Xiaodao say weakly, I can still work, senior brother." An outer sect disciple called White Noodles walked forward and pulled his hand. He said sternly, "Leave the rest to me." After saying that, he put on his work uniform and stood resolutely in front of the machine. Similar scenes appeared frequently in the workshop. When a disciple fell, thousands of disciples would take his place. The spirit of the sect of all times. Jun Changshao, who was standing in the workshop office, raised his hand and clenched his fist. He said passionately, "Forever. Forever. Forever." The disciples in front of the machine seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. They worked even harder and harder. The forging hall was busy, but the array hall was not idle either. After a large number of mecha parts were sent over, the members not only had to assemble them but also set up the internal array. Efficient work in exchange for efficient production. In just half a month, hundreds of Diablo 3 were successfully delivered to the War Cavalry Hall. Phew! Sitting in the third-generation mecha, Jingji took a deep breath and then put her hands on the activation array. Suddenly, various data appeared on the screen in front of her. Power unit normal. Defense unit normal. Combat unit normal. Zhong Yi, who was sitting in the monitoring room, ordered, "Start." Yes. Swoosh. 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 Jingji quickly used her fingers to move the array suspended under her palm. The internal power system operated until the rod was pushed up. The third-generation Diablo 3 flew out close to the runway and then quickly spread its wings and sprinted into the sky. "We did it! We did it!" Outside the array hall, the members of the mecha research team cheered excitedly. After countless days and nights of research, countless days and nights of hard work, they finally got their reward today. The Taishan old man lowered his head and quietly wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes. He whispered, "The wind is a bit strong." Chapter 1643. The third-generation Diablo made from heavenly spirit-quenching ores had its overall defense greatly increased. Coupled with the newly researched formation system and Dao stones, after many tests, Its combat power was comparable to an 8-revolution core realm cultivator. Putting down the evaluation sheet, June Patriarch smiled. Although this level was not enough to face the 10 great celestial sects, if it could be mass-produced in the future and formed into an army, it would be invincible. What a pity. The system poured cold water on him. Not enough ores. There were only 100 tons of heavenly spirit-quenching ores, and half of it was used to make armor. The third-generation Diablo was destined to have limited production. Jun Changshao said, "When I travel the upper universe in the future, do you think I won't be able to find ores?" The items rewarded by the mission were mostly stolen from other places, so he firmly believed that there was nothing too strange in the boundless universe. The only thing missing was for him to discover and mine. Good. The system said, "Host, are you going to change your profession to interstellar robber?" No way. Jun Changshao said proudly, "I have my own bottom line. I can take things that have no owner, and I can exchange for things that have an owner." In the vast universe, there were many planes that did not have the ability to leave their homes. He could use Eternal to travel through them and become a reselling merchant. For example, he could use the pills in the pill pavilion to exchange for various martial arts resources. Don't say. This was a way to make money. Moreover, every plane had its own unique heaven and earth system that nurtured different martial arts resources. There might be a large number of heavenly spirit-quenching ores somewhere. Of course, the ultimate goal was to let himself and his sect have absolute strength, until the day when they could invade the star spirit world. Jun Changshao hated this plane not because it had invaded the upper world, but because it had invaded the falling star continent. If not for Eternal arriving in time to resolve the disaster, the world he lived in would have ceased to exist. The blood feud was irreconcilable. Go Sheng was a narrow-minded person. The star spirit world had tried to harm his family in the falling star continent. Sooner or later, he would leave the upper world and attack. Don't worry. It would come soon. Because he, who was in the upper world, already had the capital to contend with the 10 great celestial sects. As long as the matter here was perfectly solved and the main mission was completed, the wandering sect would officially open. The array formation hall and the forging hall were dog-tired, but the disciples of the sect were not idle. Apart from cultivating, they did not forget to complete the sect's missions, constantly providing Jun Changshao with a 3-value income. However, on the most ordinary day, something bad happened. A few outer sect disciples who were out on a mission got into a quarrel with a group of martial artists in a forbidden area, which then escalated into an all-out brawl. Xingqian. After Jun Changshao received the news, he ordered, "Go and take a look." Yes. Yi Xingqian accepted the order and quickly set off. It was inevitable to have conflicts in the martial world. Sending a random disciple to deal with it was a bit too much. Boom! Outside a forbidden land, a powerful energy fluctuation swept up a cloud of dust. Plop! A martial artist in embroidered robes slumped to the ground like mud, his face almost swollen like a pig's head. Ta! Yi Xingqian raised his foot and stepped on his head, saying coldly, "A piece of trash like you dares to cause trouble for my sect of all times?" After this guy arrived at the scene, he did not ask for the reason or right or wrong. He directly grabbed the martial artist who was arguing with his fellow sect members and gave him a series of attacks. One word, simple and violent. Damn it! In the distance, the companions of the people who were stepped on were furious. One of them took a few steps back and raised a prop that looked like a fire starter. Immediately, with a bang, a stream of light flew into the sky and turned into a bright firework. A cloud-piercing arrow. Thousands of troops came to meet him. TSK, Yi Xingqian sneered and kicked the person under his foot away. He hugged his hands together, planning to wait for the other party's reinforcements to come. After obtaining the body of the demon ancestor and increasing his realm, he was even more arrogant than before. This was the Night Emperor. The tragic man who had been around for thousands of years in his previous life and almost offended all the 9 emperors. In the end, he died at the hands of his fiancée. Kid. A martial artist said angrily, "You're in big trouble." Boom! Just as he finished speaking, Yi Xingqian appeared in front of him and slapped him, sending him flying hundreds of feet away. He said calmly, "Noisy. Powerful. Too arrogant. This person's aura is not weak. He should be a high-ranking member of the sect of all times, right?" The itinerant cultivators gathered outside the forbidden area discussed in private. Yi Xingqian frowned. These itinerant cultivators who were not strong knew which sect they were from. The martial artists who were looking for trouble were obviously from a faction based on their attire. Had they not heard of the sect of all times? Forcefully lowering one's intelligence? Or, did they have a strong background? Swish! Swish! While he was deep in thought, streams of light shot over from afar. When they hovered in the sky above the mountain forest, the light scattered, revealing 4 sage-like old men. All of them wore khaki-colored long robes with special tokens hanging from their waists. Their auras were extraordinary. "This is," one of the itinerant cultivators exclaimed, "Tianhua Dao's sect." Yi Xingqian suddenly understood. It was no wonder that the people who were beaten up were so stubborn. It turned out that their background was a Tao-ranked sect. Elder Huang. The Tianhua Dao sect disciple pointed angrily and said, "These people snatched our earth-responsive stone and even injured 2 of our senior brothers." "Bullshit!" The outer sect disciple named Lu Baiwan roared. "We dug out the earth-responsive stone in the forbidden area first. You guys are shameless enough to say that you found it first." So that was the case. Yi Xingqian understood the cause of the matter. As a member of the sect of all times, there was no reason for him to trust his fellow sect members. Thus, he said calmly, "So what if we really snatched it?" In the cruel martial arts world, one did not have the ability to protect their own things. To sum it up, being a noob was the original sin. Yi Xingqian's words provoked the 4 experts from the Tianhua Dao sect. They looked angry on the surface, but they were secretly delighted. The sect of all times was indeed arrogant. Wasn't it easy to find a reason to incur their hatred? "Brat!" The leading elder said coldly, "Since you snatched something from our sect, you naturally have to hand it over. Since you beat up our disciples, you naturally have to be punished." Swish! With a casual flick of his finger, a true spirit stream shot out. The best way to find trouble was to escalate the conflict. Injuring this brat should be able to alert Jun Changshao. The other sects were all avoiding the sect of all times, afraid that they would accidentally provoke them. Only the Tianhua Dao sect had to do their best to offend them because of their orders. Thus, the situation would develop to an uncontrollable stage. Otherwise, how would the top 10 immortal sects appear? Boom! A palm print appeared, and a stream of light exploded. Yi Xingqian retracted his palm and said disdainfully, "The person who will punish me has not been born yet." The experts from the Tianhua Dao sect had a slight change in expression. This brat's aura was only at the core transformation realm. How could he easily break Elder Huang's Tianhua finger? This was because Yi Xingqian and the outer sect disciples of the sect of all times had all cultivated the hidden cultivation technique. They liked to circulate it all the time, making it impossible for others to see their true cultivation realm. "Ha!" Elder Huang sneered and said, "No wonder you are so arrogant. So you have some ability." Whoosh! Whoosh! As he spoke, his long robe fluttered without any wind. The power of his true spirit burst forth, revealing his lower truth-seeking realm. Yi Xingqian said indifferently, "The 4 of you better come at me together." "Brat, don't be arrogant." Elder Huang pushed his palms into the void and the power of his true spirit surged out, as if it had turned into a sky full of roaring demon beasts. The powerful aura was crazy and wanton, causing the surrounding rocks and trees to crumble instantly. Swoosh! Yi Xingqian placed his left hand behind his back and raised his right hand gently. Ripples spread out like water and instantly, dozens of heaven-crossing palm prints were released. The usage of this move could be said to be done in one go. Boom! 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 In an instant, the power that seemed like a beast horde was broken. Yi Xingqian stood proudly on the spot and looked at the other three people in the air lazily. If you guys don't attack, this old man will be in trouble. Chapter 1644. Night Emperor easily broke the move. At the same time, the itinerant cultivators watching from afar were stunned. Swish! At this moment, Elder Huang emerged from the shockwave that had yet to dissipate. His true spirit erupted, causing his white beard to fly wildly. Song Mountain Cover. Boom! 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 He struck out 3 consecutive palms in the air with both hands. Dense energy surged out and rapidly compressed the space, forming a palm print that covered more than half of the entire space. Whoosh! Whoosh! Violent shockwaves howled as space rapidly distorted and collapsed. The itinerant cultivators watching from afar were dumbfounded. A small matter had suddenly evolved into a battle at the level of a truth-seeking realm cultivator. The change in tempo was so fast that they did not expect it at all. Trash! Yi Xingqian raised his palm, and the 7 special powers hidden in heaven and earth instantly swarmed into his 5 fingers. 7 Mystic Sunglow Break. Buzz! Buzz! 5 rays of light rapidly converged, exuding an extremely powerful aura. From this, it could be seen that Yi Xingqian, who had broken through to the truth-seeking realm, once again executed the 7 Mystic Sunglow Break. Its power was far greater than that of a core transformation realm cultivator. This was a martial technique created by the 7 Mystic Sacred Venerate. The higher the user's cultivation realm, the more powerful it would be. Swish! 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 5 rays of light pierced through the air like 5 sharp swords mercilessly. They brushed past Elder Huang at an extremely fast speed, causing him to stop in mid-air with a look of horror in his eyes. If those few types of energy had come even a little bit closer, he would have ended up dead. Swish! Swish! The pierced palm print gradually dissipated. Yi Xingqian retracted his hand and said proudly, "You've already died once." When he was breaking the move just now, he could have done it accurately, but he purposely missed by a little to let the other party experience the feeling of riding a roller coaster. Cold sweat seeped out of Elder Huang's forehead. "Elder Huang, are you all right?" his companion asked from afar. "What are you waiting for?" Elder Huang shouted. "Since this kid wants to fight 4 people at once, we naturally have to fulfill his wish." The itinerant cultivators' mouths twitched. Since they couldn't beat him, they were prepared to gang up on him. Were the experts of the Dao sect really that shameless? Elder Huang did not mind. He remembered the Patriarch's order. Since he had brought people here, he had to make a big deal out of it. After all, he had the support of the 10 major celestial sects. "All right." The other 3 elders flew over. Yi Xingqian shook his head, and the word "attack" appeared on his forehead and flashed. Ka ka ka. The lines gathered around his body, forming an unparalleled armor. Paw! Dense lines appeared in front of him. The moment he grabbed it, the sky piercer materialized. After the text effect was activated, Yi Xingqian's eyes instantly turned cold and sharp. A powerful aura erupted from his body. "Remember." He raised his head proudly and said, "My name is Yi Xingqian." Boom! The ground beneath his feet caved in and a cloud of dust rose into the air. The camera automatically followed him and saw that Yi Xingqian had already flown up into the sky. Under the sunlight, his enormous body was revealed. "Senior Brother Yi." Lu Baiwan and the other outer sect disciples' eyes were filled with strong admiration. Boom! 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 An earth-shattering battle was taking place in the sky. The battle was extremely tragic. In just a few moments, the surrounding mountains collapsed and the ground cracked. Boom, dang dang dang. The two elders of the Tianhua Dao sect were swept by the powerful unparalleled force and staggered from the sky before falling to the ground. They only managed to stabilize their bodies after retreating hundreds of feet away. Then, they couldn't help but spit out blood. Die! Seeing this, the other two companions attacked from the left and right. Boom boom. Yixingchen couldn't stop in time and was attacked from the front and back. His entire body flew out and caved into the mountain. Senior brother Yi! Lu Baiwan and the others exclaimed. Ta! Yixingchen walked out of the mountain that was filled with rubble. He casually retrieved the sky piercer that was scattered in the distance. Then, he clasped his hands together and pressed hard on his joints, causing cracking sounds to be heard. Since you dared to harm my sect's disciples, I'll cripple your martial arts first. The two experts of the Tianhua Dao sect were pursued and attacked with the majestic force of the true spirit. Yixingchen stood on the spot and didn't move until the two forces pressed down on him. Then, he casually took a step back. Whoosh! Right at this moment, a violent aura suddenly erupted from the mountains far away. A gigantic demonic beast dashed over with earth-shattering steps. Oh no! The two experts of the Tianhua Dao sect were shocked. Boom! Boom! In the blink of an eye, the demonic beast rushed in front of them and used its huge body and violent force to send them flying. Boom 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 boom, the demonic beast's force was extremely terrifying. The two experts of the Tianhua Dao sect were caught off guard and were sent flying thousands of feet away. They caved into the mountain in the shape of a swastika. The sudden change stunned the itinerant cultivators. When they regained their senses, they saw a gigantic, husky squatting in front of Yixingchen. It wasn't a husky. It was a Panhu beast. Someone recognized the demonic beast and was even more shocked. The Panhu clan was one of the thousands of clans in the upper world. They usually lived in their ancestral land. Why would they suddenly appear? From the moment it squatted beside Yixingchen and stuck out its tongue, everyone guessed that the two of them had signed a contract. The two experts of the Tianhua Dao sect walked out of the mountain with difficulty. Their faces were extremely ugly. The Panhu beast that suddenly appeared was obviously not weaker than them. Now that it was on the side of the sect of all times, the situation was not good. Go! Yixingchen ordered expressionlessly. Whoosh whoosh! The Panhu beast stood up and took a step forward. It got into an attacking position and roared, woof! Woof woof woof! Plop! The itinerant cultivators fell to the ground. Ah ah! Yixingchen held his head and roared, I told you not to open your mouth. Why didn't you listen? Oh whoa, the contract beast lowered its head. It looked even more adorable. This natal contract beast was huge and had a strong demonic aura. It could bring immense pressure to people. However, when it roared, it turned from majestic to comical. Humph! Elder Huang and his three companions gathered again. They sneered, it's still in the form of a dog. We don't have to be afraid. Dog? The Panhu beast's hair stood on end. Its eyes were about to pop out. Roar! It roared again. The sound was deafening. Then, it stomped on the ground and its huge body flew out like an arrow. Stop it! Boom boom boom! Boom 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 boom! The Panhu beast took the colorful energy bombs head-on and charged to the front of the four experts. It then used both its front and back limbs to attack like a mad dog. The situation was too tragic. There was no need to describe it. Of course, Yixingchen wasn't idle either. He brandished his Fangtian halberd and charged in. The master and servant instantly formed a 2-against-4 situation, and the magnificent Heaven Dao Sect's experts were beaten until they retreated in defeat. They were beaten until they lay on the ground covered in wounds. Too powerful. The itinerant cultivators were terrified. The cooperation between the man and the dog was impeccable. The Tianhua sect experts' defeat was not undeserved. Whoosh! The Panhu beast held Elder Huang in its mouth and placed him in front of its master. The latter's head was bleeding profusely. Yi Xingqian really wanted to throw a punch over and smash this old man into smithereens. However, he suppressed that thought and turned to look at the panicking magnificent Sky Dao sect disciples. He said coldly, "If you want them to live, bring the money to the Aeon sect to ransom them." Chapter 1645. Although Yi Xingqian had changed his body, his soul had been subtly influenced by Jun Changshao, and he had learned to extort money from others. Sigh. It would be difficult to turn back if he continued down this path. However, from this battle, it could be seen that Yi Xingqian had the strength of a truth-seeking realm cultivator. He would not be at a disadvantage if he fought against 4 people of the same level. With a little help, he would immediately crush them. What a joke! The cultivation and hard work he had put in during this period was not a joke. Swish! Swish! Yi Xingqian left the forbidden area with the 4 severely injured elders of the magnificent Sky Dao sect. However, halfway there, he suddenly stopped in midair and looked at the mountains in the distance. His expression gradually darkened. "Senior brother Yi, what's wrong?" Lu Baiwan asked. "Nothing." Yi Xingqian retracted his gaze and said, "Let's go." Just as he left with his fellow sect members and captives, clouds appeared in the forest in the distance and gradually formed a graceful figure. She said in a low voice, "He actually broke through to the truth-seeking realm and has a contract beast of equal strength." Who? Empress Ling Yao. This woman who wholeheartedly wanted to overthrow the World Hall had rarely made an appearance after the invasion of the Star Spirit world. The reason for this was that there were some plots where even Jun Changshao could only play a supporting role, much less someone at the peak of the revolving core realm. Disciple. Perfected Qing Wei gradually appeared and said, "Don't waste your time on scheming. Follow Master to cultivate. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to defeat the patriarch of the sect of all times in the promise of 10 years. Empress Ling Yao shook her head and said, "My opponent is not Jun Changshao, but this Yi Xingqian." Perfected Qing Wei's face was filled with shock. She had forced her disciple to participate in the battle between Jinren Tonggu and Gu Hongjinren. However, she did not know that Jun Changshao intended to let Yi Xingqian fight. She could guess that it was because there was a grudge between the two that had to be settled. If she guessed correctly, the entire sect of all times was probably hoping that she would die in his hands. That was right. That was what Go Sheng and his disciples thought. You can't blame them. If you want to blame someone, you have to blame Go Bai. Ever since Yi Xingqian joined the sect, Go Bai had always shown his monstrous anger. The enmity between the two of them was so deep that it was necessary to determine who would die and who would live. Sect of all times. After Yi Xingqian returned, he sat alone on the mountain peak. Even though he did not manage to catch sight of Empress Ling Yao in the forest earlier, he was still able to sense her aura. When I was fighting with the experts of the Tianhua Dao sect, this woman should have been watching in the dark. Would she have thought that I, who was once like an ant, would now have the cultivation of the truth-seeking realm? Yi Xingqian said expressionlessly. He wasn't showing off. Instead, the hatred in his heart was once again ignited, and he couldn't wait to take his revenge. This matter is over. Yi Xingqian clenched his fists and looked up at the sky. His gaze was cold as he said, "There must be an end to our enmity." The endless grassland. Empress Ling Yao was standing in an area filled with strange rocks. Disciple. Perfected Qing Wei said seriously, "Once you enter the grotto, life and death will be unpredictable. Are you sure you want to enter?" Empress Ling Yao fell into a short silence before murmuring, "You probably don't want me to be killed by you so easily, so I won't let him down." After saying that, she entered the grotto without looking back. Buzz! Streams of light flickered, forming a cage. Perfected Qing Wei shook her head and said, "As her master, I can't guess what my disciple is thinking at all." The 4 injured experts were locked up in the sect of all times. Because they were waiting for the Tianhua Dao sect to pay the ransom, Jun Changshao did not send them to the Tianyuan prison pagoda out of humanitarian considerations to receive area's careful care. Of course. In regards to Yixingchen's actions, Gou Sheng gave a high degree of approval. He also taught his disciples that when they went out and had conflicts with other martial artists, they should be lenient where possible. If they really couldn't handle it, they should just capture them. However, he probably didn't know. When the Tianhua Dao sect found out that the elders were detained, they almost couldn't help but cheer on the spot. The 10 major immortal sects ordered them to find trouble with the sect of all times, and the bigger the better. Now that they were detained and had to pay the ransom, wasn't the problem very serious? Quick! Lin Shangyi said, inform the immortal sects. In just half a day, the news was sent to the Lingtian immortal sect. After Lin Haoyan found out, he replied, send someone to ask for the ransom. Resolutely refused to pay the ransom. Currently, the conflict between the two sects hadn't escalated to the point of the 10 major immortal sects taking action, so the problem had to be magnified. It would be best if the whole world knew about it. After receiving the instructions, Lin Shangyi's expression became interesting. The ones being detained were the elders of the Tianhua Dao sect. If they refused to pay the ransom and angered Jun Changshao, the loss would be huge. Sigh. Lin Shangyi sighed helplessly. If he had a choice, he really didn't want to offend the sect of all times, but now that he was directly ordered by the immortal sects to not resist, he could only obey. Let's go. Follow me to the sect of all times. Patriarch. In the study, Yixingchen recounted what happened yesterday in detail. Then, he said in confusion, in my opinion, there must be something fishy about this matter. Oh? Jun Changshao asked, what's fishy about it? Yixingchen held his chin and said, who in the upper realm doesn't know that the Patriarch's master is Jinren Tonggu? How could the disciples of the Tianhua Dao sect not know? How could they not recognize the words ancient carved on the clothes? Perhaps this Dao-level sect doesn't take our sect of all time seriously, Jun Changshao said. Yixingchen said, it's common for disciples of the sect to have conflicts with other factions when they go out. Why did the 4 elders of the truth-seeking realm come out as soon as they released the distress signal? Indeed. Jun Changshao said, it's a little strange. According to his understanding, the forbidden area where Lu Baiwan and the others went to do the mission was extremely far away from the Tianhua Dao sect. Even if they came to help immediately, it would take at least an hour. Or rather, Yixingchen said, do the disciples of this sect have elders of the truth-seeking realm protecting them in the dark at all times when they go out to train? Impossible. Jun Changshao denied, unless they have nothing better to do. In the past, he had sent Gu Zhaoxi to protect the disciples of the sect when they were on missions, but it was only during special times. Later on, he chose to let him go. A Dao sect that was based in the upper realm must have tens of thousands of disciples. Were there enough elders to protect them 24 hours a day? Don't say it. Jun Changshao clasped his hands together and said, it's really strange. Gou Sheng did not believe that there was nothing fishy about sending 4 elders of the truth-seeking realm over when the disciples had a conflict. Ask Lu Baiwan to come over. Yes. Not long after, Lu Baiwan walked in. As an outer sect disciple, although he often saw the Patriarch on the main peak, he could not remain calm now that he was in close contact with him. Tell me about the conflict with the Tianhua Dao sect. Yes. Lu Baiwan hurriedly began to narrate. I entered the forbidden area with a few fellow disciples and found a large number of earth-responding stones. We had just put them into our space rings when the people of the Tianhua Dao sect jumped out and said that they found it first and asked us to return it quickly. Then, we started fighting. That's it. That's it. Chapter 1646. After disciple Lu Baiwan explained what had happened, Jun Changshao fell into deep thought. In the past few years, he had also wreaked havoc in many forbidden areas and knew that there was an unwritten rule in the upper realm. Whoever went in and obtained good things would belong to them. How could the Tao sect disciples not know? Moreover, the Earth Response Stone was not something valuable. They argued with the sect of all times over such a trivial matter and even attacked in the end. No matter how he looked at it, it seemed like, patriarch. Yi Xingqian frowned and said, in my opinion, they are deliberately looking for trouble with the sect of all times. After this guy occupied the demon ancestor's body, he felt that his intelligence had obviously increased. My master is Jinren Tonggu. It's impossible that the Tianhua Dao sect doesn't know. They are deliberately looking for trouble in the forbidden area. I'm afraid that someone is supporting them from behind, Jun Changshao guessed. Previously, many forces had come when the Dao stone mine appeared, and among them, there were Tao-level forces. After he defeated the Ling Tian immortal sect elder, they all left obediently. Unless the Tianhua Dao sect was kicked in the head by a donkey, why would they take the initiative to look for trouble? Patriarch. Li Luoqiu walked in and said, I've already investigated clearly. Speak. The Tianhua Dao sect was established 50,000 years ago. After rising to Tao level, they climbed up the big tree known as the Ling Tian immortal sect and jumped to Tao level in a short 10,000 years. Oh? Jun Changshao was interested. Li Luoqiu continued, the Tianhua Dao sect will send outstanding disciples to the Ling Tian immortal sect to cultivate every 10 years. The two seem to be allies on the surface, but many people know that they are actually superior and subordinate. Lackey? You can think of it that way. Jun Changshao leaned back in his chair and tapped his right hand on the table. A smile gradually appeared on his face. The truth seems to have surfaced. Yi Xingqian said, the Tianhua Dao sect dares not to fear the sect of all times because they have the Ling Tian immortal sect behind them? No, no. Jun Changshao rested his chin on the back of his hand and said, the 10 major immortal sects are sealing the ancestral lands of the two clans so that they can act at any time. But if there is no reason, how can they explain it to the world? Understood. Yi Xingqian came to a realization. The Tianhua Dao sect was ordered to target the sect of all times so that the 10 great immortal sects would have a chance to strike. Not bad. Humph, Yi Xingqian said coldly, only trash would play tricks. Because he had once been hurt by Empress Ling Yao, what he hated the most was playing dirty tricks. Patriarch. Li Qingyang transmitted a message, the patriarch of the Tianhua Dao sect is here to visit. So fast. Jun Changshao stroked his chin, squinted his eyes, and said with a smile, I'd like to see how you're going to put on this show. Hoo-hoo. Hoo-hoo-hoo. In the sky, the 10 upper echelons of the Tianhua Dao sect, led by Lin Shangyi, stood proudly, releasing an extremely unfriendly aura. They were not here to ransom people, but to incite conflict. However, when they saw the sect of all times's door open and Elder Huang and the other 3 tied up and carried out by the disciples of the sect of all times, their violent aura weakened significantly. A lower truth-seeking realm cultivator was considered a pillar of a Dao sect. If anything happened to them, they would definitely not be able to afford it. Swish! Jun Changshao flew out and floated outside the mountain gate. He cupped his hands at Lin Shangyi politely and said, you have an imposing appearance and extraordinary might. You must be the patriarch of the Tianhua Dao sect, right? That's right. Lin Shangyi's tone was indifferent. Jun Changshao said, I won't waste any more words. Please pay 1 billion mystic stones to ransom the 4 elders of your sect. If it was a profound sect or a true sect, the price might be lower, but since it was a Dao sect that was second only to the immortal sect, they would definitely ask for an exorbitant price. Go Sheng could not take the initiative to extort innocent people, but if there was a conflict between them, he would definitely not be polite. Just like the Demon Emperor's gate in the lower realm, he would extort money again and again. Besides, they were the ones who started the trouble first, so they were even more righteous. Jun Changshao. Lin Shangyi reprimanded with a cold gaze, the disciples of our sects only had a small conflict. Isn't it too much to ask for 1 billion mystic stones to kidnap 4 elders of my sect? Jun Changshao was just guessing just now. Now that he saw the other party announcing the seizure of power, he was certain that the other party was deliberately looking for trouble. He probably wanted to blow up the matter and make it known to the world so that the immortal sect would have a reason to appear. Fine. I'll cooperate with you. It's not too much. Jun Changshao looked very annoying. Lin Shangyi suppressed his anger and softened his tone. If my sect was in the wrong first, we will naturally apologize. So, Jun Patriarch, please release the 4 elders. Acting couldn't be too much, otherwise it would be easy to reveal flaws. Big brother, even if Go Sheng's IQ was low, he could tell that your disciples were looking for trouble and instantly sent elders to rescue them. If there was a word to describe it, this was definitely a pig teammate. I can release them. Jun Changshao said, you have to pay the ransom first. He was not afraid of others acting awkwardly, but he was afraid of others cooperating. Go Sheng guessed their intentions and naturally hoped to blow up the matter, because he also lacked a reason to act. To put it bluntly, the 10 great immortal sects wanted to mess with Jun Changshao, but how could Jun Changshao not want to mess with the 10 great immortal sects? Both sides hit it off. Come, everyone can act with all your might. Of course. Jun Changshao didn't even need to deliberately act, because he was very familiar with extortion and was completely acting as himself. Jun Patriarch. Lin Shangyi said coldly, your master is a respected figure in the upper realm, but as his disciple, you're doing things like extortion and blackmail. Aren't you afraid of embarrassing Senior Tonggu? Sorry. Jun Changshao said, Master has already jumped out of the 3 realms and is no longer part of the 5 elements. He has long become indifferent to face. Lin Shangyi didn't know how to respond to this. My patience is limited. Jun Changshao landed in front of the mountain gate and put a hand on Elder Huang's shoulder. You'd better cooperate, otherwise, crack. The crisp sound of bones shattering rang out. Elder Huang's expression froze. He obviously didn't expect this guy to suddenly attack him. Doesn't it hurt? Ah, Elder Huang screamed in pain. Jun Changshao. Seeing this, Lin Shangyi was furious. Jun Changshao walked to the other side of Elder Huang and put it on his shoulder. I don't care who's right or wrong. Anyone who dares to bully the disciples of the sect of all times must pay the price. Crack. Ah, both of his shoulder bones were crushed. Elder Huang's face was not only hideous, but his arms also naturally drooped down. The other 4 companions tied to the side were sweating profusely on their foreheads and backs. Don't worry. Jun Changshao walked in front of one of them and smiled. As long as your sect's patriarch doesn't pay, it'll be your turn soon. This smile. It was like a demon. The 4 elders were so shocked that their minds trembled. They looked up at Lin Shangyi with difficulty, as if begging. Patriarch, hurry up and pay, I'm afraid we won't be able to take it. The main reason was that their cultivation was temporarily sealed, so they were no different from ordinary people in terms of resisting pain. Puchi. Suddenly, a dagger stabbed into the chest of one of Elder Huang's companions. Sizzle. The dagger was quickly pulled out and blood splattered. Jun Changshao shook the blood-stained dagger and looked at the furious Lin Shangyi. He grinned and said, if you don't pay, the next stab will stab your heart. Chapter 1647. Tianhua Dao's sect wanted to blow things up. Jun Changshao wanted to earn some money and cooperate with them, so he could only start torturing the 4 elders. Of course. This was still considered light. If he really wanted to be ruthless, he would directly throw them into Tianyuan prison pagoda and guarantee that the 4 of them would have a good new year there. Lin Shangyi was both happy and afraid now. He was happy that the patriarch of the sect of all times was so strong that he could stimulate the conflict. What he was afraid of was that he might accidentally kill the elder. In terms of value alone, for truth-seeking realm cultivators were far more than 1 billion mystic stones. After all, even if he had martial arts resources, he might not be able to pile up 1 Seeing his hesitation, Jun Changshao raised his dagger and stabbed again without hesitation. This time, he would definitely die. Jun Patriarch. Lin Shangyi finally could not hold it in and hurriedly shouted, "Let's talk nicely." The sharp dagger stopped when it was only 1 centimeter away from the elder's chest. The latter's widened eyes immediately recovered, and then he panted rapidly, sweat pouring down his forehead. Death. He had never been so close. Jun Changshao turned around and smiled. I'll say it. 1 billion mystic stones, not one less. In this aspect, Gosheng rarely compromised. Lin Shangyi's expression turned uglier. The order given by the Lingtian immortal sect was not to hand over the ransom. Now that the other party was forcing them, they would definitely be killed if they did not hand it over. Jun Changshao. At this moment, an elder of Tianhua Dao's sect could not take it anymore and roared, "Aren't you afraid that we'll report you to the World Hall for such shameless blackmail?" Right, right. He was only worried about the elders and forgot that he had backing. World Hall. Jun Changshao said disapprovingly, "They're not even a fart in my eyes." These words were obviously to find an opportunity for Tianhua Dao's sect to lead the conflict to the World Hall, and then the World Hall to the 10 immortal sects. Lin Shangyi indeed followed into the ditch. He sneered. The World Hall was created by the 10 immortal sects. Jun Patriarch doesn't even care about the immortal sects. The immortal sect is nothing. When Jun Changshao said these words, it gave people a feeling that he was pouting. It could be said that his acting skills were textbook. Not only did Lin Shangyi believe it, but he was also secretly delighted. Good. I'll go find the 10 great immortal sects and let them be the judge. After working hard for half a day, he finally brought the immortal sects in. The mission could be considered to be half completed. Jun Changshao raised his blood-stained dagger and patted the face of the elder beside him. He said, "I don't care if you seek justice from the immortal sect or the divine sect. You must hand over the 1 billion profound stones. Otherwise, take the corpse with you when you go." Shwa! Shwa! Xiao Jun's flying knife began to tremble. Zzz. The magnificent Sky Dao sect elder, who was restrained, could not dodge. The tendons in his arms and legs were all torn, and fresh blood gushed out like a fountain. Ah! Screams that sounded like pigs being slaughtered resounded throughout the timeless immortal mountain. Jun Changshao. Lin Shangyi roared angrily. In order to make him realize how cruel he was, Jun Changshao grabbed the elder's hair with one hand and placed the sharp dagger against his neck. He said with a cold gaze, "I'll give you a count of 3 to consider. Otherwise, you can collect their corpses." Murderous intent filled the air. At this moment, if there were onlookers around, they would definitely realize that the sect of all times Patriarch definitely had murderous intent. Sect. Patriarch. That elder's face was sinister as he said in a hoarse voice, "Today, although I'm going to die, I'm still an elder of the magnificent Sky Dao sect. I'll grant you your wish." Jun Changshao's fingers moved, and the dagger moved away from his neck. As it spun, it pierced into his chest. Hot blood splattered on his face, adding a bit of cruelty to it. The elder's pupils constricted. Before his thoughts disappeared, he thought, "I just said something nice. Why did he really stab me?" Elder Song. Lin Shangyi and the others roared angrily. Swoosh! Jun Changshao pulled out the dagger. Ignoring the other party's head, he continued to stab another elder. His method was so cold that it was obvious he wanted to kill him in one blow. However, just as it was about to land, Lin Shangyi finally gave up his defense and said, I'll give. One elder had already died. He could not allow a second one to die. Furthermore, the one who was about to be killed was the brother of his favorite concubine. If anything happened to him, he would cry and throw a tantrum at home every day. If Elder Song, who still had some warmth left, knew that the patriarch's compromise originated from his brother-in-law, he would definitely be annoyed at himself for upholding righteousness. I fucking courted death, and in the end, I really died. Patriarch Lin. Jun Changshao said indifferently, give me 1 billion mystic stones. You can take them away. You killed one of them. Why do you still want 1 billion? This is a small business. No bargaining. Lin Shangyi almost couldn't help but vomit blood. However, since he had already compromised, he definitely could not let the three elders suffer any more harm. Therefore, he suppressed his heartache and said, all right, 1 billion it is. These 2 days. Jun Changshao counted with his fingers and said, the 4 elders have food and drink in my sect. I'll give you 4,600 mystic stones as food expenses. It was truly too deranged to haggle over every ounce to such an extent. All right. Lin Shangyi gritted his teeth and said, I'll give. He was willing to pay 1 billion, so he definitely wouldn't care about 4,600. Pay first, then let them go, Jun Changshao said, this is the old rule of the sect of all times. Old rule? It seemed that this guy had extorted a lot. No wonder he was so professional. Lin Shangyi obediently paid the 1 billion mystic stones and redeemed the 3 elders and a corpse. Before he left, he glared fiercely at Jun Changshao. Wah! On the way back, Elder Song, who had been stabbed in the chest, suddenly vomited blood and went from a dead state to a near-death state. Patriarch. Third Elder exclaimed, Elder Song is still alive. Lin Shangyi hurried over and clasped the other party's wrist. He found a pulse and said in shock, how is this possible? After Jun Changshao stabbed the dagger into his chest, he caught a glimpse of Elder Song's lifeless aura. Now that he suddenly came back to life, it was really strange. Sect of all times. Jun Changshao sat in the study. Not only was he playing with the spatial ring that contained the mystic stones, but he was also playing with the medicine bottle with that netherworld pill written on it. He thought to himself, how long can this thing last in the upper realm? It turned out that he was just acting and did not kill Elder Song. The host is merciful, the system said. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, the magnificent Sky Dao sect was merely instructed by the 10 major immortal sects to cause trouble. I gave them a chance to turn over a new leaf. If they dare to do it again. At this point, he paused for a moment and said with a cold gaze, this is not something that can be resolved with money. Chapter 1648. Boom! Boom! In the training room, Xiao Ziji, who was fully equipped, faced Su Xiaoma and Li Fei's punches and kicks. He was as still as a rock. The armor he was wearing was developed by Fan Yezi from a book he obtained from the Moang region. As the material was made from heavenly spirit quenching ore, it could be called a third-generation mecha. Huff, huff. After a while, Su Xiaoma and Li Fei were panting. They bent over and stopped. One of them had a sore hand, while the other had a sore foot. The entire process felt like they were hitting metal lumps. Xiao Ziji said excitedly, Patriarch, this armor is not bad. Jun Changshao, who was sitting at the side, took a sip of tea and said, after all, it's made from heavenly spirit quenching Oregon. How can it not be fragrant? After testing, the third-generation mecha had extremely strong defense. The craftsmanship was also high. Although it looked cumbersome, it was actually light and convenient. It was a must-have for traveling and robbing. Where could he buy such a good item? Look for Gosheng at the ancient celestial mountain. Sorry, not for sale. Hall Master Fan. Jun Changshao came to the forging hall and said, you must speed up the production of the third-generation mecha. Try to use up all the remaining heavenly spirit quenching ore in half a month. Okay. In the lower domain, Fan Yezi was basically in a semi-retired state. After coming to the upper domain and being given a lot of work, he regained his lost youth and the drive of his youth. Jun Changshao went to the array formation hall again and told them to speed up the production of mechas. In the workshops of the two peaks, the disciples worked hard. The words, "strive for perfection, forge quality," shone brightly on the wall. Ka ka. Ka ka. Batches of Diablo and third-generation mechas were produced one after another. The elite members of the War Cavalry Hall used the new mechas. The inner sect disciples put on the new mechas. The core strength of the sect of all times grew stronger day by day. Everything is ready. Jun Changshao sat in the study room and interlocked his fingers. He said, "We only lack one east wind." This east wind was the magnificent Heaven Sect. Ling Tian's celestial sect. Lin Haoyan stood in the study, the anger in his eyes growing. Lin Shangyi was like a child who had made a mistake. He stood at the side with his head lowered and didn't say a word. Boom! Suddenly, Lin Haoyan smashed the table and roared, "So, you still paid the ransom? Jun Changshao is very cruel. If we don't pay up, the 4 elders of our humble sect will be killed by him." Although Lin Shangyi looked aggrieved, he was prepared to be scolded after he chose to compromise. The 4 lower truth-seeking realm cultivators have surrendered. Trash, good for nothing. Lin Shangyi's head was sprayed with saliva, but he could only lower his head and howl in his heart, "This realm is nothing to your immortal sect, but it's a treasure to our Dao sect." "You don't care, but I do. Patriarch Lin, don't be angry." The patriarch of the hidden immortal sect, who was sitting next to him, stroked his goatee and smiled. As the guardians of the upper realm, with the 10 great immortal sects, cannot allow this kind of extortion and blackmail to spread, so he gave a, "You know what I mean," look. "That's right." Lin Haoyan calmed down and sneered. Just because of a small conflict between disciples, they detained 4 elders and extorted 1 billion Shen stones. This kind of evil practice must be stopped. Patriarch Lin, did you just say that an elder of your sect was assassinated by Jun Changshao? That's right. Is he alive or dead? He's still alive. Announce his death to the public and carry the body to the sect of all times. Ha! Lin Shangyi was dumbfounded, but he soon understood what it meant, and his expression immediately became pained. Patriarch Lin. Lin Haoyan patted his shoulder and said in a low voice, "Our Heaven Ascension Immortal Sect will compensate your sect for any losses after this matter is over." Lin Shangyi's eyes lit up when he heard this. Understood, understood. East Sea. The 10 great immortal sects were still busy setting up the seal. Although the Stone Statue clan and the Dragon clan had already known, they pretended not to notice because Jun Changshao had warned them in advance. Elder. It'll be completed in 3 days. The formation master in charge of the seal gave an accurate time. When the news reached the Heaven Ascension Immortal Sect, Lin Haoyan gently raised his wine cup and said with a fake smile, "Jun Changshao, you and your sect of all times can only exist for 3 days. Everyone, let's gather our men." All right. The leaders of the other 9 sects contacted their own sects one after another. From the high-ranking elders to the elite disciples, all of them were ready. In the extreme grade cave abode, Jinren Tonggu pushed the chessboard away in frustration and said, "Old friend, I have an ominous feeling again." Masato Kitano was speechless. Every time he was about to lose, an ominous feeling would come. It was too much of a coincidence. Boom! Suddenly, there was a clap of thunder outside. The 2 of them stood up and walked out of the cave abode. They saw dark clouds in the distance, and a murderous aura blew with the wind. "Looks like," Masato Kitano said solemnly, "the weather is going to change again." Sigh. Jinren Tonggu sighed and said, "I hope it's not related to my disciple this time." Other than the 2 invasions of the star spirit world, as long as he was upset, it would definitely have something to do with Jun Changshao. Of course. Go Xing also blamed himself. Therefore, he did not inform Jinren Tonggu to help when the 10 great immortal sects targeted the sect of all times. Master. Sitting in the main hall under the dark clouds, Jun Changshao raised a jar of drunken dreams and said, I already have the strength to face everything. I won't cause you any more trouble. 3 days were very short. It was just a short conversation. Buzz. Buzz. In the East Sea, the 2 sealing formations were finally built. Phew. The person in charge heaved a sigh of relief. During this period of time, he had been on tenterhooks, afraid that the dragon race and the stone statue race would come out and cause trouble. Fortunately, they were not discovered, and everything went very smoothly. Thank the heavens, thank the earth. Actually, he should thank Goshing more because he was the one who stopped the 2 races. Ling Tian Immortal Sect. Lin Haoyan, who was anxiously waiting, immediately flew up and shouted, "Let's go." Yes. Whoosh. 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 In an instant, nearly 10,000 upper echelons and elite disciples turned into streams of light and flew out of the sect, interweaving in the sky like a rainbow. What's going on? Seeing this, the passers-by were stunned. The 10 great immortal sects were extraordinary existences in the upper realm. It was already good enough to see a few people, but now so many of them flew out. Could it be that they were going to fight? Similar situations were also playing out in the other 9 sections. Under the lead of the Patriarch, the upper echelons and elites flew towards the ancient immortal mountain as quickly as possible. How many? 10,000 in 1 sect, 100,000 in 10 sects. This number was exactly the same as the sect of all times, but they were all elites, so their combat strength was very strong. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Vast waves of air spread out, deeply shocking the cultivators of the upper realm. Something big has happened. This scene is very similar to the scene recorded in the ancient books when the various immortal sects joined forces to fight against the demonic race 100,000 years ago. The 10 great immortal sects sent out their elites together, instantly shocking the entire upper realm, causing all the cultivators to wonder who was going to be unlucky. Sect of all times. They're heading towards the sect of all times. Someone guessed the general direction of the Lingtian immortal sect's powerhouses. After all, in terms of enmity, Jun Changshao had previously snatched a Dao stone mine from them. As expected. This day still came. Chapter 1649. In the Sect of All Times. Jun Changshao stood in front of the bronze mirror, tidying his collar and combing his bangs. He had already received news from the East Sea that the 2 clans had been sealed. The 10 immortal sects would probably come soon. Thud. He walked out with a valiant posture. The black and white Rakshasa, Old Ding, and the other upper echelons lined up neatly outside the main hall. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the other core disciples stood proudly in the martial arts arena, their eyes flashing with fighting spirit. The 10 immortal sects would come sooner or later, and they had long been prepared for battle. It's been nearly 10 years since I ascended to the upper realm. Jun Changshao said loudly, "It's time to tell everyone that those who offend the sect of all times will be killed. Those who offend the sect of all times will be killed." The loud shouts of the sect resounded through the sky. Swish! Swish! On the drill ground below the war cavalry peak, dozens of mountain gates slowly opened. Brand new mechas took off from the runway and then hovered in the sky above the sect. The Million Devil Army hovered outside the immortal mountain, forming 3 layers of defense. At this moment, the sect of all times was under martial law. Not even a strand of hair could float in, let alone a fly. Jun Changshao was too lazy to activate the sect's protective array because he needed such a tool to protect himself. Now that the upper echelon disciples had broken through to the truth-seeking realm, he had the confidence to face everything. A murderous aura enveloped the entire sect, indicating that a bloody battle was about to begin. Swish! Swish! At this moment, hundreds of Tianhua Dao sect powerhouses flew over, and a few of them were carrying coffins. Jun Changshao released his spiritual senses and found a corpse lying inside. He's dead? That's impossible. A few days ago, he stabbed him and did not injure his vitals. He only quietly consumed a yellow spring pill. He should have been alive long ago. How could he still die in the end? Understood. Jun Changshao suddenly laughed. The conflict had developed to an irreconcilable stage, and naturally, someone had to die. Therefore, this elder song had to die to give the immortal sects an opportunity. Jun Changshao. Lin Shangyi hovered outside the mountain and said angrily, "You killed my sect's elder. This grudge is absolutely irreconcilable." TSK. Jun Changshao said, "In order to find an excuse for immortal sect, you sacrificed a truth-seeking elder. Your Tianhua Dao sect is truly magnanimous." Now that the seal of the East Sea had been set up, the 10 immortal sects should be on their way here, so he didn't plan to put on an act anymore. Furthermore, there was no point in acting with amateurs. Lin Shangyi's expression froze, and some pain flashed through his eyes. However, he quickly adjusted his state of mind and said in a deep voice, "I have invited the 10 great immortal sects. They will uphold justice for me." Oh! Jun Changshao leaped from the main hall to the outside of the mountain gate and sat down elegantly. He interlocked his fingers and placed them on his thighs, saying, "Bringing a coffin here so early in the morning is really a bit inauspicious. Whether it's auspicious or not doesn't mean anything to you, because..." Lin Shangyi's tone gradually turned cold and severe, "A life for a life." "That's right," Jun Changshao said. Lin Shangyi's gaze instantly froze because the voice did not come from the mountain gate but from beside his ear. Hence, he tried his best to turn his head and saw that fellow appearing in front of him at some point in time. He said in a gloomy voice, "A life for a life." With that, he raised his hand. Lin Shangyi displayed the reaction that a patriarch of the Dao sect should have. He dodged at an extremely fast speed and with an extremely pathetic movement technique. However, when he stabilized his body and looked again, he saw that the other party was only scratching his head and did not attack. His face instantly turned red from anger. No! He was at the peak of the truth-seeking realm after all. Although he was not as good as the experts of the immortal sect, he shouldn't have let that guy get close to him so easily without noticing, right? Boom! While he was thinking, a powerful fist landed on his right face. In slow motion, Lin Shangyi's eyes widened and his mouth was crooked as he flew out gorgeously. Then, he fell outside the Aeon Immortal Mountain like a cannonball, stirring up clouds of dust. Patriarch! The upper echelons of the Tianhua Dao sect exclaimed and looked at Jun Changshao in horror. When did this guy attack? They didn't see it at all. You even killed your own people. What right do you have to be the master of a sect? Swish! Jun Changshao flew down and merged with the dust in the sky. Boom! 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 In an instant, the sound of violent punches could be heard. Coupled with the shaking of the earth, it presented an excellent visual experience. At the same time, it also deeply shocked the upper echelons of the Tianhua Dao sect. A moment later, the explosion ended and the dust fell to the ground. Jun Changshao stood in front of the huge pit. At the bottom, Lin Shangyi's face was bruised and swollen. He was foaming at the mouth and even his teeth had been knocked out. A peak truth-seeking realm cultivator was unable to resist at all. Husband, Rose of Flowers was shocked. So strong. Previously, he had asked him when he would break through. Today, he had easily trampled on a peak truth-seeking realm cultivator in front of the entire sect. It was too exaggerated. He didn't want to explain. What's going on? Is there a fight in the sect of all times? Let's go and take a look. The itinerant cultivators outside the timeless immortal mountain rushed over after hearing the commotion. When they saw the soldiers and mechas gathering in the sky above the sect of all times, they realized that something big was going to happen. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, a majestic aura swarmed over from afar. The itinerant cultivators hurriedly turned around, and then, their eyes widened. In their field of vision, the experts of the Ling Tian Immortal Sect flew over at top speed. Although there were only 100,000 of them, they were all elites. The weakest of them was at least rank 7 or rank 8, and there were countless reincarnation core cultivators. Exterminate the dogs. They were serious. The experts of the 10 major immortal sects who flew over did not hold back at all. The power that erupted was visible to the naked eye, as if it had turned into a surging wave that pressed down from the sky. The itinerant cultivators were so scared that their legs trembled. With this kind of formation and aura, if it was targeted at them, they would probably be annihilated instantly. Fortunately, the 10 major immortal sects did not come here to kill ordinary people. Their gazes were fixed on the sect of all times, and their flying speed was much faster than before. The army was pressing down on them, and the killing intent was even stronger. However, facing such a vast aura, the sect of all times expression did not change even if Mtitai collapsed in front of them. They came quite quickly. Jun Changshao casually grabbed the half-dead Lin Shangyi and flew to the front of the sect gate. He casually threw him on the ground and sat on a chair suavely. In the blink of an eye, the 10 major immortal sects patriarch led by Lin Haoyan flew to the sect gate. When they saw the Tianhua Dao sect's patriarch being abused to the point where it was unbearable to look at, they were unable to restrain their anger. Jun Changshao. The hidden immortal sect's patriarch shouted, kidnapping 4 Tianhua Dao sect's elders and extorting 1 billion mystic stones, this is truly, stop talking nonsense. Jun Changshao impatiently interrupted, if I don't do this, how can I give the 10 major immortal sects an excuse to attack? At this point, a fight was inevitable. He did not like to beat around the bush, so he directly laid his cards on the table. Good. Lin Haoyan shouted loudly, the sect of all times detained another sect's elders without permission. This is the first crime. Extorting 1 billion mystic stones from the Lin Patriarch is the second crime. Killing Elder Song is the third crime. Clang, sword light appeared, and a head rolled. Jun Changshao stood up with his sword and stepped on Lin Shangyi's rolling head with one foot. He said coldly, no one in this world can convict me, Jun Changshao. If there is, then kill them. The originally slightly silly aura instantly turned serious under the influence of the 6 words. Kill. Kill. Inside the sect, the furious roars of the disciples shook the sky. Chapter 1650. Jun Changshao gave Lin Shangyi a chance and didn't kill the 4 elders. However, he didn't seem to realize Go Sheng's kindness and brought a coffin to cause trouble early in the morning. The most intolerable thing was, Elder Song clearly didn't kill him, but he still dared to deliberately frame him. Again. No more. Therefore, Jun Changshao drew his sword and killed him. His technique was nimble and decisive, not giving Lin Haoyan and the others any time to stop him. Lin Shangyi, who died with his eyes wide open, obviously didn't expect that Jun Changshao would kill him so brazenly even though the people of the 10 major immortal sects were here. In order to obtain greater benefits, he killed Elder Song. Now, he died tragically under Jun Changshao's sword. It could be considered as fulfilling the sentence he said when he first arrived. A life for a life. Jun Changshao. The hidden immortal sect said angrily, you're lawless. Jun Changshao wiped the blood off the sword with a handkerchief and said indifferently, you should have a reason to attack the sect of all times now, right? Yes. And it was very sufficient. Of course, Jun Changshao didn't kill Lin Shangyi to anger the 10 major immortal sects. He just couldn't stand this guy who even dared to kill his own people. Kill. Kill. The hundreds of powerhouses of the magnificent Heaven Dao sect finally came back to their senses. They unleashed their cultivation realms and drew their weapons, charging over with fierce eyes. The patriarch was killed. Any sect member with guts would not tolerate it. Clang! Jun Changshao inserted the sword under his feet, put his hands on the hilt, and said expressionlessly, kill them all. Swoosh! Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, the black and white rakshas flew out in a spiral. The majestic power of true spirit erupted and instantly condensed into dense heaven-crossing palm prints. When he first met Jun Changshao, the two of them were only at the 6th transformation core realm. Now that they had entered the upper level of the truth-seeking realm, their speed of improvement was extremely fast. Boom! Boom! The palm prints continued to explode, causing the space to rapidly collapse. Although the Tianhua Dao sect had more than 500 people and many of them were at the truth-seeking realm, they were only at the middle and lower level. They could only passively take a beating when facing the stronger upper level. Plop! Plop! One by one, the higher-ups fell outside the mountain gate. There was a palm print on their chests. Their auras were gone, and their souls had returned to the 9 heavens. The patriarch had given the order to kill all of them. Therefore, when the black and white Rakshasas attacked, they showed no mercy at all. They went straight for the kill. After losing a large number of their fellow disciples, the upper echelons of the Tianhua Dao sect finally calmed down from their anger. An elder turned around and begged for help. "Patriarch Lin, please uphold justice for our patriarch." Jun Changshao said indifferently, "There is no justice in this world where the strong prey on the weak, and no one can uphold justice." Zhou Hong. Disciple is here. Annihilate all the invaders. Yes. Zhou Hong flew out of the sect and landed steadily at the mountain gate. Although he was wearing the Sect of All Times' disciple uniform, it had faded in many places because he had not changed it for a long time. His black hair was messy, and his eyes were filled with vicissitudes. He held a simple and unadorned sword in his hand, looking like a swordsman who had wandered the world. Why did they have to describe his appearance and expression? That was because this guy stood on the spot like a block of wood after he appeared. There was no way to break in at all. They could only rely on this word count to barely survive. Lin Haoyan and the others frowned. This guy who had just walked out did not release any martial arts aura. He looked like an ordinary person. No. This kid is definitely not simple. The intuition of a top expert made the immortal sect elders realize that this Sect of All Times disciple should be extremely dangerous. Huff. Zhou Hong took a deep breath. Perhaps it was because he had not fought in front of a camera for a long time. The moment his right hand touched the hilt of the sword, one could clearly see that his fingers were trembling slightly. The patriarch had given him a chance. He had to seize it. Clang, while thinking, he unsheathed his sword. Whoosh whoosh. A majestic sword chi emerged from his body. His entire person instantly became extremely sharp. The person was like the sword, and the sword was like the person. This was an extremely profound level of sword Dao. What a pure and flawless sword chi. Lin Haoyan frowned. This person should be a pure sword cultivator. There were very few pure sword cultivators in the upper realm. That was because many people could not bear the loneliness and chose to cultivate other things in the long years. Zhou Hong was different. Whether it was in the lower realm or the upper realm, he had always insisted on comprehending the sword. He had reached a state of intoxication. Even the most insignificant action of unsheathing his sword would be repeated countless times. He was born for the sword. He was a sword fanatic. As for why he did not give the camera time, it was because he had been unsheathing his sword in the courtyard every day. It was too boring. Go Sheng, who had cheated all the way, could not be compared to Zhou Hong, who cultivated steadily. No, he was not even fit to carry his shoes. Was the reader feeling comfortable? Retreat. The higher-ups of the magnificent Sky Sect smelled danger and hurriedly ordered their disciples to retreat. It was too late. Just as they turned around, Zhou Hong took a step away. His body was half-bent, and his messy black hair fluttered without wind. He said, "Sword technique, 8,000 fleeting graces." Swoosh, the sword chi shot out like a ray of light. Buzz! Buzz! Space instantly folded, revealing a strange scene. No, a strong aura of death rose in the hearts of the higher-ups of the magnificent Sky Sect. As they cried out in fear, the sword chi swept past them, and their bodies were directly split into two. Even the nearby space was left with eye-catching sword marks. Lin Shangyi came to cause trouble and brought nearly 500 people. He was killed by Jun Changshao, dozens of higher-ups were killed by the Black and White Rakshasa, and the rest, whether it was the lower-level truth-seeking realm or the core transformation realm, all died under Zhou Hong's 8,000 fleeting graces. They were all elites. Now that they died in front of the sect of all times, the magnificent Sky Sect could declare bankruptcy. How is this possible? Lin Haoyan did not care that the magnificent Sky Sect's elites were all wiped out. After all, they were just a dog raised by his family. What he cared about was that the sect of all times disciples seemed to have only attacked once, but in fact, they had attacked thousands of times in an instant. 8,000 times. Jun Changshao was shocked. The system exclaimed, "This person's attainments in the Sword Dao have already surpassed the host's." That's right. Jun Changshao had to admit, his obsession with the Sword Dao can be said to be perverted. Gosheng relied on the Sword Dao aptitude liquid to advance all the way up in the lower realm. On the other hand, after ascending to the upper realm, he did not have a suitable weapon and almost abandoned his Sword Dao. This guy, Yi Xingchen said solemnly, could it be that he has the strength of a middle-level truth-seeking realm? He and Zhou Hong had entered the sect not long after each other and had long realized that he was different. However, he did not expect that after coming to the upper realm, he would break through to the truth-seeking realm with his own comprehension and even display stronger combat strength than him. No. He Wudi said, it's already difficult to measure his realm because true sword cultivators don't care if they're in the core transformation realm or the truth-seeking realm. They only care if they can comprehend a higher Sword Dao. That's right. Martial Dao realm was superfluous to Zhou Hong. He had been comprehending the Sword Dao from the beginning to the end, so even if he cleared his realm now, as long as he had the sword intent in his heart, he could still kill 300 people instantly. Clang Zhou Hong sheathed his sword. Under his messy black hair, a face full of stories and vicissitudes was revealed. In terms of age, he was only a dozen years older than Jun Changshao. Chapter 1651. Zhou Hong killed hundreds of powerhouses with one strike, which deeply shocked Lin Haoyan and the rest. It would be difficult to find a second person in the entire upper realm who could comprehend the Sword Dao to the point where he could slash 8,000 times in an instant. If he continued to cultivate, his achievements would only be more terrifying. The more stunning Zhou Hong's performance was, the more the 10 major immortal sects sensed danger. After all, he was a disciple of the sect of all times. If they did not stop him in time, wouldn't he soar to the heavens when he was fully grown? Everyone. Lin Haoyan transmitted his voice. This sect cannot be left alive. When the star spirit world invaded earlier, they had seen the strength of many disciples. Now that a Sword Dao genius like Zhou Hong had appeared, they were even more worried than before. That's right. The patriarch of the hidden immortal sect said, since we are all here, we must destroy the sect of all times. Jun Changshao. Lin Haoyan said coldly, you killed the patriarch of the Tianhua Dao sect in public. Your crime is extremely heinous. Today, according to the rules of the upper realm, we will remove your sect of all times. His voice resounded in the sky and entered the ears of the itinerant cultivators. It's over. The sect of all times is finished. When Lin Haoyan said this, numbers appeared on the signs of all the medium-sized cities in the upper realm. The content was, since the sect of all times ascended, they have repeatedly destroyed the forbidden grounds, detained the Tianhua Dao sect's elders, and extorted 1 billion magnetite. Their actions are extremely vile and infuriating. After discussion among the 10 major immortal sects, they have issued a removal order. Fuck. A removal order. Martial artists from various cities quickly gathered around. A removal order could be understood simply as removing a force or clan from the pugilistic world. Ever since the 10 major immortal sects came to power, it had only appeared once, and that was 100,000 years ago against the demonic territory. Now, a sect that had just ascended was receiving the same treatment. No wonder so many immortal sect powerhouses flew over just now. They are going to wipe out the sect of all times. It's a rare sight. Let's go and watch the show. Watch what? The 10 great immortal sects have sent people. By the time we get there, the eternal sect will already be gone. Jun Changxiao's master is Jinren Tonggu. He definitely won't sit idly by and do nothing. Perhaps he's already clashed with the immortal sect. If we go over, we'll be able to see a battle between peak powerhouses. Let's go. In the end, there were still quite a few cultivators who went to the timeless immortal mountain with the mentality of watching a good show. There were quite a number of people, at least 1 million. In the extreme cave abode, Jinren Tonggu placed a black piece on the chessboard and raised his head with a smile. I won. AI. Masato Kitano shook his head and said, "You're one step behind. According to the bet that you and I made a few thousand years ago, the loser must promise the winner one thing." Speak. Jinren Tonggu stood up and said with his back to him, "Stay here." With that, he waved his hand and put on a brand new robe that was hanging on the clothes rack. An aura of death surged from his body. I can agree to anything, but this is the only thing I can't agree to. Masato Kitano also put on a robe and tied up his scattered hair. Because I said that no matter what happens in the future, I'll support you unconditionally. Why bother? Jinren Tonggu said bitterly. Don't talk nonsense. Masato Kitano walked out of the cave abode first and said, "If you're late, your disciples' sect will probably be removed." No wonder the two of them felt like they were going to be separated by life and death. It turned out that they already knew that the 10 immortal sects had issued a removal order. Okay. Jinren Tonggu knew this old friend very well and said, "You owe me one thing first." Bullshit. Masato Kitano roared, "Your disciple is in trouble. I'll go and help. We don't owe each other anything." Okay. While the two of them were talking, the ethereal 7 sages and the others flew over. They did not have a master-disciple relationship with Jun Changxiao, but they had personally trained him for 2 years. Now that he was in trouble, they naturally did not hesitate to help. Disciple. Jinren Tonggu thought to himself, I was wrong. He had once said that he would rather die with his friends than die with him. Now that they had come to help him without caring about their lives, it showed what chivalry was. This was especially precious in a world where the strong preyed on the weak. Let's go. Whoosh! 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 With Jinren Tonggu as the representative, the itinerant cultivators turned into streams of light and flew towards the Aeon Immortal Mountain. They knew that they would fall out with the 10 immortal sects, but in order to place their hopes on the new generation, they did not mind losing their arms or even their lives. At this point in the plot, they became hot-blooded for no reason. This would probably make many readers who were used to the relaxed style of writing shout, "Fuck, this is so awkward." Don't worry. The camera turned to the sect of all times, where the atmosphere was solemn. Jun Changxiao sat in front of the mountain gate, one hand skillfully scratching his foot. The disciples were speechless. The immortal sect's 100,000 people were waiting outside the sect, but the patriarch was still leisurely scratching his foot. Moreover, he even put his finger in front of his nose and sniffed it. A relaxed expression appeared on his face. Ugh! Su Xiaoma could not take it anymore and vomited. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were trying their best to focus their attention on the immortal sect. Go Sheng's indecent behavior made the nearby rows of flowers think to herself, husband's calm appearance is so charming. Remove them. Jun Changxiao put down his foot and said, such arrogance. Lin Haoyan did not intend to waste words with him. He raised his hand and said coldly, disciples, listen to my order, quickly eliminate the sect of all times. Yes. Whoosh whoosh. In an instant, Close to 100,000 martial artists with cultivation not weaker than rank 7 or 8 erupted with their full strength. Their roars and auras could be said to be world-shaking. It was quite ironic, when Star Spirit World's first fleet invaded, although they participated in the battle, their numbers were far less than the Sect of all times. They were probably thinking of sending the other forces and lone cultivators to their deaths, thus reducing their losses as much as possible. If a battle is decided by the loudest voice, my Sect of all times would be invincible. Jun Changshao lazily placed his hand on the chair and said, "Babies, let them hear you." Swoosh! Swoosh! 100,000 disciples uniformly took out loudspeakers from their spatial rings and shouted, "Those who offend the Sect of all times will be killed. Those who offend the Sect of all times will be killed." Buzz, the sky shook, it was deafening. If a battle was decided by the loudest voice, the Sect of all times would undoubtedly win. Swoosh! Swoosh! At this time, the 10 great immortal sects charged over. At the front were several hundred higher-ups, their strength ranged from low, middle, and upper truth-seeking realm. The 10 immortal sects could casually send out a few dozen experts, but the combined battle strength was immense, not to mention the tens of thousands of peak transformation core experts. Although Jun Changshao had 1,000,000 devil army, most of them were at rank 1, if the two sides really fought, it would be hard to say who would emerge victorious. Whoosh whoosh! The people of the 10 great immortal sects came crashing over like monstrous waves. Their auras, which were condensed under their full cultivation, deeply shook the sky and the earth. Too terrifying. The lone cultivators who were hiding far away saw the dazzling light on myriad ancient immortal mountain, their minds trembled. Let's see who dares to act rashly. Suddenly, an old and furious voice resounded, forming a sound wave that spread out crazily, causing everyone's blood and chi to roil. The 10 great immortal sects' army stopped abruptly. Jinren Tonggu brought his friends and family to the entrance of the Sect of all times, saying coldly, "Those who touch my disciple and the sect will not rest until they die." Master, Jun Changshao turned his head and handed over some eye drops. When he turned back, his face was already covered in tears. Chapter 1652. Jinren Tonggu brought his group of friends and family over. He stood in front of the mountain gate, his back view looking extremely majestic. Jun Changshao was greatly touched. He must have saved the entire universe in his previous life to have met such a good master in this life. Wait a minute. Could it be that this was the reason why he transmigrated to another world and activated the system? You're thinking too much. The system broke the ice in time. With the host's shameless personality, it's already fortunate that he didn't harm the universe in his previous life. If not for the fact that they were facing a powerful enemy, Jun Changshao would definitely strangle him. Jinren Tonggu. Lin Haoyan said with a cold face, Jun Changshao killed the patriarch of the Tianhua sect and committed an unforgivable crime. As his master, are you going to protect him? He had already expected this situation, but he did not take it to heart. As long as he sealed the dragon race and the stone statue race, a group of itinerant cultivators would not be a threat. Indeed. In terms of strength, the patriarch of the 10 immortal sects was stronger than Jinren Tonggu and the rest. If they really fought, the outcome would be decided very quickly. You said it yourself. Jinren Tonggu said, "Since I'm the master, how can I watch my disciple be bullied?" Since he had brought people here today, he had to protect Jun Changshao no matter what. "Humph," the patriarch of Hidden Immortal said coldly, "those who protect the Sect of all times will be considered accomplices. You still have the face to say that after losing to me?" Masato Kitano said calmly. This sentence immediately angered the patriarch of Hidden Immortal sect. 10,000 years ago, he had lost to Masato Kitano. At that time, he had just entered the core transformation realm and had not succeeded the position of patriarch. "Come." The patriarch of Hidden Immortal sect said in a low voice, "Let's fight again." After becoming the next successor of the sect, he had obtained many resources, and his strength and realm were no longer the same as before. Naturally, he wanted to avenge his defeat. Okay. Masato Kitano agreed. Jinren Tongu asked worriedly, are you confident? No. Masato Kitano knew that the strength of the Patriarch of the Hidden Immortals sect had increased rapidly. Although he had also broken through to the peak of the truth-seeking realm, there was definitely a gap between him and the Patriarch who had been cultivated by the sect. Senior Chi Yi. Jun Changshao said, this is a grudge between the sect of all times and the 10 great immortal sects. Please watch from the side. Masato Kitano's expression was wonderful. Did he not realize what was going on in his sect? He actually wanted him to watch the battle. Smelly brat. Jinren Tongu scolded, don't show off. Goshin smiled and flew out of the mountain gate. He hovered in midair and looked at the Patriarch of the Hidden Immortals sect with an arrogant attitude. He said lightly, I will fight with you. You? The Patriarch of the Hidden Immortals sect sneered. Jun Changshao. Lin Haoyan said lightly, without the support of the Stone Statue clan and the Dragon clan, what qualifications do you have to challenge the 10 great immortal sects? The other Patriarch also looked disdainful. In their opinion, sealing off the ancestral lands of the two clans was equivalent to cutting off Jun Changshao's wings. But then again, sending 100,000 elites to kill their way to the sect seemed to be giving too much face to dog leftover. The main purpose was to eliminate the root of the problem. The sect of all times had to be destroyed. The upper echelons and disciples could not be spared. In order to ensure the absolute rule of the 10 great immortal sects in the upper realm, as long as there was a threat, they would rather kill the wrong person than let them go. One could imagine how angry the demon ancestor was when he was jointly destroyed back then. No wonder he had the idea of destroying the world and was even willing to become an immortal. Jun Changshao said in a mocking tone, you don't dare to accept the challenge? Brat! The Patriarch of the Hidden Immortals sect said coldly, are you deliberately provoking me? Swoosh! Jun Changshao took out a loudspeaker and said, today, I, as the Patriarch of the sect of all times, challenge the Patriarch of the Hidden Immortals sect, but he avoided the topic. He's obviously afraid. The rogue cultivators in the distance were speechless. Brother, we can hear you even if you don't speak so loudly. The Patriarch of the Hidden Immortals sect was instantly furious. His gaze was cold as he said, since you're so overconfident, I'll fight you. He agreed. I've sinned. Jun Changshao said, make a cup of hot tea. After saying that, he flew out of the Aeon Immortal Mountain and hovered above a mountain field. He said lightly, hurry up and come out. I'm still waiting to go back and drink tea. Jinren Tongu and Masato Kitano's mouths twitched. They finally understood why Jun Changshao asked his disciples to make tea. It turned out that he wanted to finish the battle quickly so that he could drink it while it was hot. No! He's too arrogant. Even his own people could not stand it anymore, let alone the Patriarch of the Hidden Immortals sect. At this moment, his eyes were flashing with extreme anger. He wanted to tear Jun Changshao apart with his eyes. Patriarch Jin. Lin Haoyan said telepathically, no need to show mercy. Kill if you can. At first, he thought that Jun Changshao might hide in the sect and not come out. If he wanted to destroy him, he would have to use absolute power. That was why he sent 100,000 people. He did not expect that Jun Changshao would dare to take the initiative to challenge the Patriarch of the Hidden Immortals sect. Opportunity. Excellent opportunity. As the saying goes, to catch bandits, catch the ringleader first. After destroying Jun Changshao, wouldn't the sect of all times be a piece of meat on the chopping block? Okay. An undetectable killing intent rose in the Patriarch of the Hidden Immortals sect's angry eyes. Jinren Tongu caught it and hurriedly sent a telepathic message to Jun Changshao, come back quickly. Don't be rash. The Patriarch of the 10 major immortal sects was at the peak of the truth-seeking realm. Even he himself might not be able to win, let alone his disciple. Master. Jun Changshao hovered above the mountains and said with a solemn expression, "Ever since we established a master-disciple relationship, I've caused you a lot of trouble. I'm ashamed." Sigh. Jinren Tonggu sighed, "I'm used to it. This time, since the 10 major immortal sects have come to target the sect of all times, please watch the battle from afar. Leave the rest to me," Jun Changshao said. Jinren Tonggu fell silent. He was definitely worried about letting Jun Changshao face the 10 major immortal sects alone. However, looking at his super serious back, he was a little expectant that his disciple could compete with the strongest forces in the upper realm. "Okay." Jinren Tonggu said, "I'll watch the battle. Old friend. Let's retreat first." Turning around, he found that Masato Kitano, the 7 sages of the ethereal sect, and the others were already hovering far away from the ancient immortal mountain. They almost took out a watermelon and said, "This watermelon is so sweet." Fuck. You guys ran away too quickly. Jinren Tonggu and his friends and family chose not to participate in the matter between the sect of all times and the 10 major immortal sects. They hung outside the mountain gate as bystanders. Of course. It was also because of their trust in Jun Changshao. After 2 years of contact, they did not think that this kid was a fool. Since he did not plan to let them participate and dared to fight the patriarch of the hidden immortal sect alone, he should be confident or have some trump card. "Old friend, your disciple is not simple. Maybe he will create a miracle." "I hope so. Come on." Jun Changshao raised his hand and made a provocative gesture. "Let's get this over with." The patriarch of the hidden immortal sect suppressed his anger and flew over. His extraordinary long robe fluttered without wind. His eyes were filled with undisguised killing intent. He said, "Arrogance comes with a price." Whoosh! Suddenly, Jun Changshao rushed in front of him. His right hand was buffed with heaven and earth attributes and various special effects. Ka ka ka. Ka ka ka. Hundreds of feet of space collapsed, forming a dense spider web. Boom! The ground caved in and dust flew. Chapter 1653. Jun Changshao made a move. He was so fast that the itinerant cultivators in the distance couldn't see him clearly. The big shots of the 10 major immortal sects, Jinren Tonggu, and the other itinerant cultivators were powerful, so they could naturally see him. So when the dust flew, all of them widened their eyes without exception. What did they see that made them so shocked? They saw Jun Changshao approach the patriarch of the hidden immortal sect in an instant and then punch him in the face, knocking him to the ground. This seemingly ordinary attack actually contained the explosive profound truths of heaven and earth. "The peak!" Masato Kitano exclaimed, "the truth-seeking realm." Jinren Tonggu, who had been worried about his disciple, was stunned for a while and then said ecstatically, "Did he comprehend something again? That's why he suddenly broke through to this level." Because Jun Changshao had found a reason to improve and advance, now that he burst out with the strength of the peak of the truth-seeking realm, he instantly thought of the enlightenment. How is that possible? Lin Haoyan and the other 9 patriarchs were stunned. They could accept that that guy had the peak strength, but they couldn't accept that he had punched the patriarch of Jin away. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew, blowing away the dust. A huge pit appeared, and the patriarch of the hidden immortal sect was sunken at the bottom. There was a fist mark on his chest, and his whole face was twisted to the extreme. Ouch! Jun Changshao, who was suspended in the air, was a little surprised. Not bad. He approached like lightning and attacked like lightning. He had used this trick on Lin Shangyi before. The latter was directly punched, while the patriarch of Jin was only injured. It was obvious that he was stronger. Of course. After all, he was the patriarch of an immortal sect. Damn it! He tried to stand up from the bottom of the pit, suppressing the pain in his chest, and said angrily, "I was careless." Boom! Boom! At this moment, heaven-crossing palm prints fell from the sky and hit the deep pit with great precision. The ground trembled frequently, and the cracks extended infinitely. The martial arts technique that he had taken from Gu Tianqing was performed by Jun Changshao, who was at the peak of the truth-seeking realm. Not only was it more powerful, but it also consumed very little energy, so he could perform it hundreds of times in a short time. Jinren Tonggu's mouth twitched. He hoped that his disciple would be able to reverse the situation and create a miracle. But, he never imagined that his disciple would obtain absolute suppression from the very start of the battle and even crazily bully an immortal sect patriarch. Excitement and exhilaration. Jinren Tonggu could not help but raise his hand. Slap! Masato Kitano beat him to it and said, "If you can feel pain, then you're not dreaming." Ha ha ha. Jinren Tonggu covered his painful face and laughed. It's true, it's true. My disciple is beating up the patriarch of the hidden immortal sect. A moment later, Jun Changshao was tired and stopped. Throughout the entire process, he was not out of breath and his waist did not hurt. He was even a little spirited. The patriarch of the hidden immortal sect was in a miserable state. Originally, he had been injured by a punch, and now, he was being crazily bombarded by the heaven-crossing palm. He had sunk into the ground, and his entire body was twitching violently. He seemed to be half dead. It wasn't that he was weak. It was that Go Sheng was too strong. Lin Haoyan and the other 8 patriarchs' expressions were extremely ugly. They had thought that the patriarch of the hidden immortal sect could easily kill this kid, but in the end, he was killed in an instant. Whoosh! Jun Changshao flew back to the mountain gate and took a sip of tea. He narrowed his eyes and said, "This tea should be drunk while it's hot." In ancient times, the second master of the hidden immortal sect killed Hua Xiong with warm wine. Today, Go Sheng has hot tea. Damn it! The anger in Lin Haoyan and the others' eyes was enough to start a prairie fire. Jun Changshao stood up, shook his head and arms, and said proudly, "That wasn't even a warm-up. If you want to fight, I'll be there anytime." The 10 great immortal sects wanted to capture the leader first, and he also wanted to get rid of the patriarch. The rest of the troops were nothing to be afraid of. Of course. Jun Changshao added, "I don't bully the weak. If you think you can't beat me, you can come together." What was arrogance? This was arrogance. Even a pitiful villain like the demon ancestor didn't dare to challenge the top forces of the 10 great immortal sects alone. This guy. Jinren Tonggu wanted to curse. Dealing with the patriarch of the hidden immortal sect in such a short time had indeed shocked him greatly. He also realized that his disciple's cultivation was unfathomable. However, there was still the patriarch of the 9 great immortal sects present. If he asked them to attack together, he would be looking for trouble. Listen to Jun Patriarch's words. The patriarch of the supreme immortal sect said coldly, "You plan to fight the 9 of us alone?" That's right. Jun Changshao hoped to deal with the enemies as soon as possible, and then, bring people to attack their home. After all, they must have plenty of wealth and resources. The patriarch of the supreme immortal sect said, "What do you all think?" Since Jun Patriarch is so confident, an immortal sect leader said lightly, "We naturally have to cooperate." The patriarch of the Jin family's strength was on par with theirs, but that guy was instantly killed. They definitely didn't have the confidence to fight alone, but if it was a group fight, then, come on, who's not afraid of who? Face was really important. If it were individual cultivators like Jinren Tonggu and Masato Kitano, because they abided by the rules of the martial world, they wouldn't fight with numbers. On the other hand, the 10 great immortal sects, who boasted of being high and mighty, didn't care at all. Of course. It wasn't an open fight, so it was normal for them to gang up on him. When the matter was over, they would fabricate some unforgivable crimes for Jun Changshao and the sect of all times. The world would only praise them and not care about anything else. The demon ancestor was an example. Back then, he was jointly killed by the ancestors of the 10 great immortal sects. Today, the people of the upper realm only remembered to get rid of evil for the people. who would care about bullying with numbers? As long as it was defined as evil, as long as it could be eradicated, the process and means were not important. Jun Changshao once again stood in the area where he shattered the space with a punch. Unlike before when he only had one opponent, this time there was Lin Haoyan and the other 8 patriarch of the immortal sect. Their cultivation base was fully unleashed, and the aura they formed madly disturbed the space, causing it to gradually distort and fold. Martial artists rushed to the scene one after another. When they saw the patriarch of the sect of all times and the patriarch of the immortal sect standing in the air above the mountains, they were all dumbfounded. What? Jun Patriarch wants to fight the 9 great immortal sects alone? After hearing the news, the individual cultivators from all walks of life widened their eyes. Is he crazy? Fighting the patriarch of the 9 great immortal sects alone, Jun Patriarch is courting death. From a rational point of view, the individual cultivators who came to watch the show didn't think highly of Jun Changshao. After all, this kind of behavior was like throwing an egg against a rock. Of course. There were also people who admired him. Facing 9 peak truth-seeking realm cultivators alone, he could still act calmly. His mentality and courage were praiseworthy. No wonder he dared to barge into the realm hall and snatch the mineral veins of the 10 great immortal sects not long ago. Jun Patriarch. Lin Haoyan said indifferently, "Can we begin?" It was a little wrong to fight with numbers. Moreover, there were more and more spectators, so he had to show his poise. Wait. Jun Changshao took out a comb and tidied his bangs. My head can be broken, blood can flow, but my hairstyle can't be messed up. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. The 10 great immortal sects had invaded on a large scale. It was obvious that they wanted to destroy the sect of all times, but this guy was still in the mood to comb his hair. Did he not know the seriousness of the matter? Chapter 1654. Jun Changshao knew the seriousness of the matter, which was why he combed his hair in front of others to maintain the image and demeanor of a sect master. Disciple. Jinren Tonggu said telepathically, "It's not too late to retreat. If they dare to attack, I will protect you with my life." Jun Changshao put the comb into his space ring and said with a smile, "Master, I have a surprise for you today." Oh, no. After a pause, he said, "A surprise for the upper world." The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. "You haven't brought us any surprises yet. Instead, you've scared us. Fighting the masters of the 9 immortal sects alone." Whoosh! At this moment, Jun Changshao's body surged with the power of the stone statues, and his fists quickly turned into stone. The strength of 9 peak truth-seeking realm cultivators could not be underestimated. In order to show his respect, Goshing activated the bloodline of the stone statue clan. Damn! Gong Sun Ho said in surprise, "When did the patriarch comprehend the second form?" There was no need to explain. Jun Changshao turned to look at the mountain gate and said impatiently, "Why aren't you coming over to help?" Rose of Flowers was stunned. She had helped Goshing many times. It was rare to see him take the initiative. Swish! While thinking, she had already flown over and stuck her face to her husband's back, turning into a green light and merging into his body. Under the accompaniment of the prelude of the Dagger Society, Jun Changshao's black hair gradually turned green, and his grassland-colored eyes gradually became extremely sharp. The bloodline of the stone statue clan was activated, and the Rose of Flowers fused with him. This was Gongsun Jun Rose. Humph! Seeing that the guy's hair and eyebrows had turned green, Lin Haoyan sneered. What a showy trick! Bang! There was an explosion, and the space suddenly shook. Lin Haoyan's expression changed, and he subconsciously stepped back. Jun Changshao came in front of him like a cannonball, and the green dragon crescent blade in his hand suddenly slashed down, close to his neck. Rip! Wherever the blade passed, space crumbled. Jun Changshao assumed a sweeping posture with his saber. A huge crack gradually appeared in the area in front of him, as if it was a natural chasm that had existed since ancient times. His hair was green. He also wielded the green dragon crescent blade. At this moment, if Go Sheng were to stick a few strands of his beard, he would definitely have the strength to cosplay as Guan Yu. So fast! Jinren Tonggu exclaimed, I almost missed it. Your disciple's wife seems to have gained quite a bit of strength after fusing with that blind man's body, Masato Kitano said solemnly. Not bad. Jinren Tonggu said, she is indeed my disciple's virtuous wife. The camera panned to the battlefield, and Lin Haoyan staggered back a few steps. Beads of sweat instantly appeared on his forehead, and a chill ran down his spine. Although Jun Changxiao's saber attack looked ordinary and mediocre, it actually contained the supreme profound meaning of heaven and earth. If he had not retreated in time, his head would have been separated from his body. Go! The other 8 patriarchs were all top powerhouses. Naturally, they would not be shocked by how fast the other party's saber attack was. They hurriedly took the opportunity to press forward. In a battle between masters, there was no room for any flaws to be exposed. Jun Changxiao attacked openly, and there were simply too many flaws to count. Whoosh! The 8 peak stage truth-seeking realm cultivators all used their full strength, forming a monstrous air wave that instantly squeezed the space, causing it to quickly distort and crack. A battle of this level really could not be described with words. It could only be described with pen and ink after the comic was published. At that time, it would be known that this special effect was worth at most 50 cents. Blue Wave Dark Art. Blazing Fire 8 Desolation. Flying Rainbow in the Sky. Whoosh! Ka ka ka. The patriarch of the 8 major immortal sects aimed to kill Jun Changxiao instantly. As soon as he attacked, he used the immortal martial arts that he had immersed himself in for many years. The entire Aeon Immortal Mountain was instantly rendered magnificent. At that moment, all the itinerant cultivators who were watching the battle from afar held their breaths. There was only horror in their eyes. Swish! In the face of all kinds of attacks, Jun Changxiao was calm and composed. He immediately spun the green dragon crescent blade, and the blade was instantly enveloped by the power of the fire soul. He suddenly waved it and shouted, Red Heaven Raging Flame Slash. Whoosh! The scorching hot giant chop seal erupted and rushed towards the various martial skills with a momentum that could sweep away 1,000 armies. Red Heaven Raging Flame Slash. What a nostalgic martial arts technique. Today, not only did Jun Changxiao use the green dragon crescent blade, but he also unleashed a power that far exceeded the upper limit. Boom! Boom! The scorching flame slash collided with all kinds of martial arts in mid-air, and the impact crazily spread through the space. A powerful pressure erupted from above, destroying the rocks and trees, and the ground caved in by several feet. Whoosh! The billowing flames spread even further. Retreat! The itinerant cultivators who thought they were hiding far away panicked when they saw the menacing flames. The Sect of all times was very safe because Ryu Sinan used the power of space to form layers of protection outside the mountain gate. As long as the battle did not happen close by, it was not a problem to resist the aftershocks. Boom! Boom! In the sky above the sunken ground, Jun Changxiao swung his blade. The scorching flames and evil power erupted, not only shaking heaven and earth, but also the hearts of people. Lin Haoyan and the others collapsed as they fought. Because the battle had begun, not only did they not gain the upper hand, but they were also in a passive position. This guy's aura was at the peak of the truth-seeking realm. No matter how strong he was, they should not be suppressed, unless he was already at the inside realm. In fact, Jun Changxiao had just entered the peak of the truth-seeking realm. He could temporarily suppress them because of the halo and invincibility of the same level. Of course. It was also because of his bloodline and support. Press! At this moment, Lin Haoyan let out a loud roar. Both of his hands were raised to the sky, and a wave of energy with a different attribute erupted. Immediately, it condensed into a huge mountain that seemed real and illusory, and pressed down on Jun Changshao. From the audience's point of view, the mountain covered half of the sky, and its momentum was huge. Swish! Jun Changshao went up with his blade and used the blade to resist the mountain, but because the force was too heavy, his body couldn't bear it and sank a lot. Let's put pressure on him together. Lin Haoyan roared. Swish! Swish! The other 8 patriarch of the immortal sect immediately gathered the pure power of the true spirit, which seemed to turn into a raging wave and pressed over, and merged with the huge mountain, causing the gravity to suddenly increase. Seeing this, Jun Changshao knew that he couldn't resist, so he simply gave up resisting, turned into a stream of light, and flew down at an extremely fast speed, finally landing on the cracked and collapsed ground with a loud bang. You can't run! Lin Haoyan roared and controlled the mountain to smash over. However, after Jun Changshao landed, he stood proudly with his blade horizontally, obviously not intending to dodge. This momentum. It made people respect him. Whoosh! 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 The mountain that contained the power of 9 people was close to materialization, and it pressed down with terrifying power and momentum. Disciple! Jinren Tonggu's expression was ferocious. At this moment, the situation was extremely dangerous. He wanted to rush over, but he was stopped by Masato Kitano. It's too late. Chapter 1655. The technique that Lin Haoyan used was called the Ling Tian Desolation Suppression Mantra. It was an extremely powerful martial art of the sect. Its advantage was that it could combine external forces to form multiple layers of power. With the power provided by the 8 patriarchs, the huge mountain that seemed real and fake completely materialized. Under the explosion, the mountains and rivers shattered. Although Jinren Tonggu wanted to share the burden with his disciple, he could not make it in time. Moreover, the aura of the huge mountain seemed to have formed a barrier around it. Even if he rushed over, he would be blocked. No one could help Jun Changshao. He could only rely on himself. It's over. An elder of the Ling Tian Celestial Sect concluded. This sentence was approved by his fellow sect members because they knew how powerful the Ling Tian Desolation Suppression Mantra was. They also knew that with the support of the 8 patriarchs, the explosive power was enough to destroy the world. Whoosh! Whoosh! Crack! Crack! The huge mountain that occupied everyone's field of vision sank rapidly. A powerful force crazily squeezed the area covered by the barrier. The space folded layer by layer, and a blade-like gale swept up. Patriarch, the upper echelons and disciples of the sect of all times were worried. However, when they saw Jun Changshao standing on the ground, his green hair and body affected by the gale, his face was calm and composed, they were all relieved. After all these years of interaction, they believed that the patriarch was confident. Lin Haoyan shouted angrily, "The patriarch of the sect of all times has committed treason. Today, he will be killed here as a warning to others." Committed treason? Jun Changshao's lips curled into a smile. Whoosh! Suddenly, his body was enveloped by some kind of energy. His chest and limbs gradually materialized into armor and boots. When the phoenix feather purple gold crown was placed on his head, the complete 3-piece Great Sage set was completely activated. Great Sage. Jun Changshao asked in his heart, "Are you willing to be suppressed again?" Whoosh! Whoosh! A special force suddenly surged out of his body and instantly merged with his consciousness. His eyes flashed red, and his whole face twisted. He bared his teeth and said, "No." Stomp! He spread his legs and clenched his fists. Whoosh! Whoosh! A terrifying force of wildness erupted from behind him, rapidly converging into a giant ape with a ferocious face. It stomped its feet, pounded its chest, and roared. The great sage had transformed into his true form. In that moment it was as if the palm of Tathagata was pressing down, but also as if it were a five-fingered mountain. The raging ape roared madly, as if it was resisting the unfairness of fate, as if it was fighting against the heavens. Boom! At this moment the entire upper realms suddenly shook violently. Jinren Tongu, Masato Kitano, and the other cultivators focused their attention on the battlefield. They saw the ferocious ape beast standing in the shattered space, holding the mountain firmly with both hands, preventing it from sinking even an inch. Although the barrier had isolated their auras, they could still tell from their behavior that they were rebellious. Defying heaven and earth. Reverse yin-yang. Defying the gods and Buddhas. Roar! The giant ape roared angrily, and the primordial power in its body burst out crazily, directly lifting up the mountain with prejudice. How is this possible? The faces of Lin Haoyan and the others changed. Even with the 9 of them working together, they were unable to suppress a single macaque. Who? At this moment, the mountain was slowly lifted into the air. Lin Haoyan and the others frantically exerted pressure, but they could not stop it from rising. Unbelievable! The itinerant cultivators were shocked. They thought that Jun Changshao would be smashed to pieces when the 9 patriarchs worked together to strengthen the mountain, but in the end, the ape beast alone blocked it. Roar! The great sage roared again, and the primordial power in his arms burst out. Whoosh! The mountain was directly thrown out. Boom! The mountain fell to the ground, and it was earth-shattering. Swoosh! 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 Lin Haoyan and the others all suffered from the backlash and flew in all directions. When they stabilized their bodies, their faces were pale, and the blood in their bodies was restless, and they almost vomited blood. The giant ape beast gradually collapsed after neutralizing the Ling Tian desolation suppression art. Jun Changshao, who seemed to have transformed into a macaque, also returned to his human form. He quickly took out a simple sword and disappeared into thin air. When he reappeared, he was already close to the Supreme Patriarch. Broken macaques. They were all broken macaques. Clang! The long sword was unsheathed, and light flashed. Not good. The Patriarch's expression changed in shock. He dodged to the side regardless of his status. However, no matter how fast his reaction was, it couldn't compare to the speed of the immortal sword. Pucci! Half of his body had just moved away, and his right arm, which didn't keep up with the rhythm, flew out. Ah! An intense burning sensation came from the wound, causing the sect master of the Supreme Immortal Sect to scream in pain. Jinren Tongu, Masato Kitano, and the other experts were dumbfounded. The mountain pressed down. The situation was originally very unfavorable for Jun Changshao, but it was easily broken by him. He even cut off the arm of an immortal sect master at an extremely fast speed. The change in the rhythm was really unexpected. Die! Huff huff, a sound that seemed to come from hell sounded in his ears. The Patriarch, who was screaming in pain, felt a strong sense of uneasiness. He wanted to avoid it. However, he suddenly felt his body become incomparably light. Before the sect master of the Supreme Immortal Sect lost his consciousness, he discovered his corpse in his field of vision and, gradually moved away from it. Me? Was he killed? There was no time for him to think about it, because his soul had already returned to the 9 heavens. Shwa! Jun Changshao waved the immortal sword and caught the head of the Patriarch with the sword. He looked at Lin Haoyan and the others with killing intent and said, "All of you will die." Silence. Complete silence. The hidden Patriarch of the Immortal Sect had been beaten into a deep pit. The martial artists from all sides were already shocked. Now that they saw the Patriarch of the Supreme Immortal Sect being beheaded, the shock it brought would only be even more terrifying. Patriarch. The eyes of the upper echelons of the Supreme Immortal Sect were about to split open. Lin Haoyan and the others were suspended in the air with expressions of disbelief. They would never have thought that someone would die under that fellow's sword in the blink of an eye. And the one who died was not the Patriarch of the Dao sect, But the one who died was the patriarch of the immortal sect. Since the 10 great immortal sects ruled the upper realm, when had such a great figure died in battle? He had never died. It did not mean that he would not die. Today, Jun Changshao used his actions to tell the upper realm that those who offended the sect of all times must be killed. Sword. There's a problem. Lin Haoyan and the others quickly calmed down and locked onto the simple sword in Jun Changshao's hand. They instantly defined it in their hearts. Immortal level. After reaching the peak of the truth-seeking realm, one had already comprehended the profound meaning of heaven and earth. It was very difficult to take their head with conventional weapons. Now that the patriarch of the supreme immortal sect had been beheaded so easily, it was definitely a divine weapon. Shwa! Jun Changshao waved his sword, and the head flew to the front of the mountain gate. He locked onto an immortal sect master and said coldly, "You're next." At this moment, his killing intent surged. It was impossible for him to extort money. Since the 10 great immortal sects had invaded, he could forget about leaving alive. The immortal sect master, who was locked onto, trembled and subconsciously took a few steps back. Lin Haoyan shouted, "Although this child's sword is extraordinary, it's definitely difficult to control. We don't have to be afraid." That's right. The higher the quality of the sword, the higher the requirements to use it. Jun Changshao seemed to have taken the head of the supreme immortal sect patriarch in an ordinary manner, but in fact, he had consumed a lot of energy in an instant. Otherwise, how could he have killed him in an instant? Chapter 1656. Many people might not realize the seriousness of the war between the 10 major celestial sects and the sect of all times. Only after witnessing the death of the supreme celestial sect patriarch did they realize that the war between the two sides would affect the structure of the upper realm. What did that mean? Everyone knew that the 10 major celestial sects were the leaders of the upper realm. Jun Changshao's killing was equivalent to subverting their authority. What could they do to him today? Tomorrow, the sect of all times would be more prestigious than the celestial sects. Indeed. This matter involved not only life and death, but also whether the sect of all times could break the balance and become an existence on par with the 10 major celestial sects. Tongu. Masato Kitano said in a daze, "Your disciple killed a patriarch of a celestial sect." Jinren Tongu's expression was even more sluggish than his. Obviously, he did not expect Jun Changshao to turn the situation around and kill the supreme celestial sect patriarch. What was this? That's right, it was a surprise. Huh. Jinren Tongu looked up and laughed, "Good kill." After the 10 major celestial sects destroyed the demonic tribe, they had always been high and mighty and set many unreasonable laws. As a rogue cultivator, he could not stand it. He could not stand it, but he could not defeat them, so he could only keep it in his heart. Now that one of the patriarch of the 10 major celestial sects died in the hands of his disciple, it was too damn satisfying. Many rogue cultivators were also secretly happy, but they certainly did not dare to show it like Jinren Tongu. After all, even if one of the patriarchs died, the foundation of the sect was still there. It was still an insurmountable mountain. Go! Lin Haoyan shouted. He also realized that if he did not get rid of Jun Changshao today, the celestial sect's prestige would plummet. However, even though he wanted to kill him, the other patriarch did not respond. Instead, they looked at Jun Changshao with fear, afraid that they would follow in the footsteps of the supreme celestial sect patriarch. Lin Haoyan was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Jun Changshao held his sword in front of him and said coldly, "I'll go." Hoo-hoo. In an instant, an incomparably sharp sword momentum surged out from his body and surged out in all directions like a tidal wave. Everyone understood Zhou Hong's sword Dao. "Today, I'll show you my sword Dao." Hoo! Hoo! The speed at which the sword aura spread out increased, and it instantly covered the entire sect of all times. The disciples immediately understood and took out their swords from their spatial rings in unison. Then, they raised their swords up high with the hilts facing upwards. Buzz! Buzz! Under the guidance of the sword chi, the sword trembled violently. This. What's going on? The spectators with swords in the distance saw that their weapons were shaking uncontrollably, and they were all stunned. Clang! Clang! Suddenly, the sword flew out of its sheath and turned into a stream of light. Swish! Swish! From the Sect of All Times's position and the area where the rogue cultivators gathered, sword lights that blotted out the sky and covered the earth flew over at an extremely fast speed, like dazzling satin. At the same time, Jun Changxiao's entire body was enveloped by sword light, and his originally cold eyes became even sharper. Swordsmanship. He was not as good as Zhou Hong. However, now that he was holding the supreme immortal sword, the sword chi that he emitted had a different flavor. Who? Thousands of sword chi gathered and strengthened his body. Jun Changxiao flew out with his sword and shouted, 10,000 swords in one. Swish! The gathered swords suddenly flashed with a dazzling light, as if they had turned into a giant sword that pierced through the void and rushed over at a speed that could pierce through the void. The pupils of the targeted patriarch of the immortal sect contracted, and a strong sense of death surged in his heart, causing him to scream uncontrollably, "Save me, save him!" Lin Haoyan exclaimed. However, before he could do anything, he heard a splashing sound, and hot blood bloomed in the sky like fireworks. Crack! Lin Haoyan and the other 7 people froze in midair, and their eyes gradually filled with horror. The camera turned to Jun Changxiao standing behind the Euphoria Immortal Sect's patriarch, whose chest had been pierced through. The thousands of swords that had gathered together gradually dispersed, and the blades flashed with a dazzling light. Plop! The corpse fell, and blood flowed out. At this moment, heaven and earth fell into silence again, and everyone's eyes widened. The second patriarch of the 10 immortal sects had died. The other patriarch of the immortal sects, who were already a little afraid, were even more shocked when they saw that another one of their companions had died under the sword. They had sealed the 2 clans and led everyone here, thinking that they could easily eliminate the Sect of All Times, but in the end, they had lost 2 patriarchs in a row. They had never thought that such a plot would happen. Swish! Jun Changxiao turned around and said with a smile, "Are you surprised? Are you surprised?" Lin Haoyan's expression was extremely ugly. The death of the Euphoria Immortal Sect's patriarch made him realize how powerful Jun Changxiao was. At this moment, he began to hesitate whether to retreat or not. "Before you die," Jun Changxiao said, "I want you to understand how ridiculous your previous actions were." Swish! He raised his left hand and said, "Come out, my contract beast." Buzz! The space outside the mountain gate suddenly disappeared. Accompanied by a sharp cry, a huge creature shrouded in flames flapped its wings and hovered in the sky like a burning sun. The Vermilion Bird King. Jinren Tonggu, Masato Kitano, and the other itinerant cultivators were stunned. Why would the king of an ancient clan that had disappeared 100,000 years ago suddenly appear in the Sect of All Times and be defeated by Jun Changxiao? Fuck. Masato Kitano said in disbelief, "This is his contract beast." If Jun Changxiao killing 2 immortal sect masters in a row wasn't shocking enough, the appearance of the Vermilion Bird King would definitely make it look cool and special effects instantly. Whoosh! Scorching heat waves spread everywhere, forming a terrifying pressure. The martial artists were far enough away, but when they felt the heat waves, they could only circulate their energy to resist and retreat far away in fear. "Everyone," Jun Changxiao said calmly, "do you think that you can destroy the Sect of All Times just because you sealed the ancestral lands of the Stone Statue race and the Dragon race?" With the contract beast in the sky, the pretentious aura was extremely strong. On this day, he had waited for a long time. Finally, he could act happily to his heart's content. Gou Sheng's pretentiousness had reached a new height, but Lin Haoyan and the others were very uncomfortable. It was undeniable that they had always thought that sealing the two clans was equivalent to cutting off Jun Changxiao's wings. It was only today that they realized that this kid was not only terrifyingly strong, but also had invisible wings. Awesome! So Jun Patriarch still has the Vermilion Bird race as a trump card. This race is not classified as one of the four major clans because they often disappear. The Vermilion Bird King fought with the Dragon Emperor back then, and both sides were evenly matched. Everyone discussed quietly, and the shock in their eyes was even stronger. Patriarch Lin. A patriarch of an immortal sect said telepathically, "Let's retreat." Jun Changxiao had killed two peak-stage truth-seeking realm cultivators in a row, which had already made them wary. Now that he had summoned the Vermilion Bird King, they had no intention to fight at all. Damn it! Even though Lin Haoyan was unwilling, he could only turn it into one sentence. Let's go. They were scared. Go? Jun Changxiao raised his sword and pointed at the patriarch. He said coldly, "The Sect of all times is not a brothel where you can come and go as you wish." Swish! Swish! Millions of devil army flew out from both sides and enveloped the people of the 10 major immortal sects in a large net. The brand new Diablo entered performance mode under the control of the pilots. Black and White Rakshasa, Ding Xingwang, Li Qingyang, and the others fully unleashed their cultivation and entered combat mode. At this moment, they were only waiting for the Patriarch's order. They would destroy the invading enemies and show the power of the Sect of all times to the world. Chapter 1657. The 10 great immortal sects had been looking for an opportunity to eradicate the Sect of all times. With the help of the magnificent Sky Dao sect, they finally got what they wanted. However, Jun Changxiao's display of strength and the existence of his invisible wings had caught them off guard. What should they do now? Two immortal sect patriarchs had died, so they had to retreat. Otherwise, they would definitely die if they continued fighting. They were afraid of the Vermilion Bird King that suddenly flew out of the sect. After all, the aura of this beast was clearly above the peak of the truth-seeking realm. Retreat? They had to see if Jun Changxiao and the Sect of all times would agree or not. From the millions of Devil Army soldiers and a large number of mechas, and from the fact that the upper echelons were fully armed, it was clear that this was not a brothel. It was not a place where one could come and go as one pleased. Disciples, listen to my orders. Clean up all these invading trash for me. Jun Changxiao's voice resounded throughout the ancient immortal mountain. In response, the disciples shouted in unison and charged over, dragging all kinds of lights behind them. Roar! Roar! Most of the members of the Spirit Beast Hall flew out from the mountain peak. The school uniforms they wore were instantly torn apart, and the huge demon beast's body was quickly revealed. Fuck! The Purple King roared, "Why didn't you take off your clothes in advance?" After saying that, he looked at Yuan Gongzi with a pained expression. The latter shrugged and took out a small book. He silently wrote on it, "Spirit Beast Hall, who destroyed the school uniform? How many beast cores will be fined?" Z felt wronged, but he could only turn it into endless fighting spirit. Then, he obediently took off his school uniform and rushed out wearing only a pair of red underpants. In the sea of people, he had a different style. The Sect of all times had been using the hidden cultivation technique. Now that the Patriarch had given the order to wipe them out, they naturally would not suppress it. Therefore, when they completely released their realm, the aura formed instantly suppressed the 100,000 troops of the immortal sect. They are all, at the core transformation realm. After feeling the oppressive aura, the itinerant cultivator's eyes almost popped out. The strength of the people gathered by the 10 great immortal sects was also very terrifying, but they were not particularly shocked. After all, the elites of the 10 great sects were gathered. However, now that the disciples of the Sect of all times had appeared, and any one of them was at the revolving core realm, it felt like a dream. Lin Haoyan and the other patriarch were dumbfounded. An entire sect was filled with revolving core cultivators. Not to mention the two truth sects, even his own immortal sect would find it extremely difficult to accomplish this. Master! Jun Changshao shouted, "Are you surprised? Are you surprised?" After a moment of silence, Jinren Tonggu replied, "What a fucking surprise, what a fucking surprise." His disciple was strong enough to kill a peak-seeking truth realm cultivator, and she also had the Vermilion Bird King as her contract beast. Now, the sect disciples were all at the revolving core realm, and there were even many at the upper and middle seeking truth realm. This was simply beyond imagination. No wonder he didn't want us to take action. It turns out that he didn't need us at all. Kill! Kill! The disciples of the sect of all times shouted in unison, their voices shaking the heavens and the earth. After coming to the upper realm for nearly 10 years, they had followed the patriarch all the way until now. Now, they were finally going to show their beautiful wings to the world. Retreat, retreat! Retreat, retreat, retreat! Lin Haoyan roared. They had already lost their will to fight, and seeing the disciples of the sect of all times pouncing on them like mad dogs, they had to leave quickly to avoid causing too many casualties and shaking the foundation of the sect. Foundation? Sorry. From the moment they decided on the plan to seal the ancestral land and target the sect of all times, they were destined to pay a painful price for their actions. I have always adhered to the principle of staying out of each other's business. Since the 10 great immortal sects came to bully the sect of all times today, then don't blame the sect of all times for retaliating. Jun Changshao was very cowardly when he was afraid, but he was also very tough when he was tough. Today, not only did he want to destroy the invaders, but he also wanted to go to the territory of the 10 great immortal sects. To put it bluntly, Jun Changshao was also waiting for an opportunity. Today, he finally had enough reason to destroy these rule setters. Boom! 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 The new generation of battle armor number 66 flew in the sky, and streams of light gathered by various arrays blasted into the enemy like cannonballs, instantly injuring many disciples. Swoosh! Swoosh! On the other side, dozens of mechas led by Zhongyi launched a high-altitude bombardment, and the light instantly lit up the sky. When the 10 great immortal sects heard the order to retreat, they naturally did not want to continue fighting, so they retreated one after another. However, they were quickly blocked by a large number of devil soldiers and were forced to launch a breakout attack. The overall strength of these people was not bad. All kinds of energy burst out, shaking the heavens and earth and destroying space. However, although their cultivation was only at the first transformation core realm, the devil soldiers were wearing the new battle armor made of heavenly spirit quenched stone, so they were not hurt at all in the rain of bullets. How is this possible? After the crazy bombardment, seeing that they were safe and sound, the disciples of the immortal sects were all dumbfounded. Whoosh! At this moment, Jingji controlled the mecha to rush over from the side. A sharp saber appeared in her hand out of thin air, and she directly stabbed it into the depths of space, tearing sparks and lightning along the way. Oh no! Bang! 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 Wherever the blade passed, corpses flew everywhere. Too strong. Feeling the super combat power brought by the new mecha, Jingji's eyes flickered with excitement in the cockpit. Some people might ask if this disciple had given the author some benefits. She had appeared too often recently. Of course not. The more non-core disciples appeared, the more it meant that they were about to die. Whoosh! Whoosh! Several high-level truth-seeking realm cultivators of the 10 great immortal sects flew over. They gathered energy in their palms and directly blasted various parts of the mecha. Powerful true spirit force seeped into the mecha, destroying the structure of the array like a tornado. Beep! Beep! The alarm sounded in their ears. Sigh. Jing Ji took off her helmet, revealing a sad face. It's time to say goodbye to the mecha again. With that, she pressed the self-destruct button. Boom! Scorching light flashed, and then a mushroom cloud was formed. Swoosh! Swoosh! Several high-level immortal sects flew out of the airwave. Their hair was charred black, and they looked extremely miserable. Boom! 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 In other areas, the high-level black and white Rakshasa had already started fighting with the immortal sects. Because of their strength and equipment, they gradually gained the upper hand. Of course, it was almost impossible to stop the 100,000 enemies who were determined to retreat with the current strength of the sect of all times. Therefore, they had to rely on the Vermilion Bird King. Whoosh! It flapped its flaming wings and instantly appeared above the crowd. Swish! 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 Fireballs containing extremely powerful power fell from the sky like rain. Whether it was the high-level members or disciples of the 10 great immortal sects, as long as they were hit, they would turn into ashes on the spot. Jinren Tongu and Misato Kitano's mouths twitched. In fact, after the Vermilion Bird King appeared, they realized that if Jun Changshao was willing to use this power, the 100,000 immortal sect martial artists would all die here. Run? No way. In the face of absolute power, life was like grass. Seeing so many disciples die under the scorching flames, although Lin Haoyan and the others were furious, they could only suppress their grief and anger. At this moment, they had to escape as soon as possible, or else, swoosh. Sword Chi flew over, extremely powerful. Lin Haoyan and the others hurriedly staggered back. After stabilizing their bodies, they saw Jun Changshao standing behind them with his sword. He said coldly, "I'll send you on your way." Pooh! Suddenly, the sound of blood splattering could be heard. The few patriarch hurriedly turned their heads and saw a sword mark on the neck of the patriarch of the Golden Feather Immortal Sect. His horrified eyes gradually lost their luster and vitality. 3 of the leaders of the 10 great immortal sects were dead. Chapter 1658. Clang! The Vermilion Bird King chirped in the sky, and scorching flames fell like cannonballs. The itinerant cultivators in the distance were all dumbfounded, because they could clearly see that any martial artist of the 10 immortal sects who came into contact with the power of the flames would turn into nothingness. How terrifying! This is a one-sided massacre. I'm afraid the 10 immortal sects are finished this time. With so many elites dying in the Aeon Immortal Mountain, the foundation of the sect would definitely be shaken. If it was serious, they would probably never be able to recover from this setback. Boom! Suddenly, there was an explosion. The itinerant cultivators looked over and saw that the ground in the distance had caved in. An immortal sect master was lying in the depths with an eye-catching sword mark on his chest. He had completely lost his life. This was the 4th person to die. Everyone hurriedly looked up and saw Jun Changshao standing proudly in the sky. His entire body was enveloped by a dark aura, as if he was a demon that had walked out of hell. Lin Haoyan and the other 4 patriarchs' foreheads were covered in cold sweat. They looked calm on the surface, but they were actually panicking inside. Killing a peak-stage truth-seeking realm cultivator was as easy as pie. Who would be able to stand it? If it were anyone else, they would have begged for mercy long ago. However, they were the patriarch of the 10 immortal sects that ruled the upper world. Even if the situation was very unfavorable to them, they would not lower themselves to beg Jun Changshao for forgiveness. Of course. Even if they knelt down and kowtowed, it would be useless. Jun Changshao had already made up his mind to kill all the enemies who came to attack him. He would use his actions to tell the upper world that those who offended the sect of all times would be killed. Speaking of which, The main mission was to raise the sect to the level of an immortal sect within 100 years. Now that he had trampled on such a force, wouldn't it be equivalent to completing the mission in disguise? Thinking of this, Jun Changxiao's killing intent became even stronger. A general's success is built on thousands of bones. Today, I will use the corpses of the 10 immortal sects to build the throne of the sect of all times. 10,000 swords in one. Puchi. All things as swords. Puchi. With the support of the divine weapon and the first and second forms of the 10,000 swords returned to origin, Jun Changxiao instantly reaped the lives of 2 immortal sect patriarch, not giving them any chance to escape. After breaking through to the peak of the truth-seeking realm, perhaps only powerhouses like Gongsun Ruoli could do anything to him in the upper realm. 2 more dead. When the cultivators watching the battle from afar saw that only Lin Haoyan and the other 2 were standing in the sky, their expressions became more and more interesting. He was at the peak of the truth-seeking realm, the top powerhouse in the upper realm. But now, 6 of them had been killed by Jun Changxiao in such a short period of time. How terrifying was this? Someone would ask. Aren't there 10 patriarch? How come there were only 9 of them? That was because Jun Changxiao had defeated the patriarch of the hidden immortal sect first. At this moment, this guy was lying in the deep pit, pretending to be dead. Occasionally, he would take the opportunity to cover his face with the soil, secretly praying, don't find me, Puchi. The sword light flew over and pierced through his chest. Puchi. The force of the spurting blood sent the soil flying, revealing the hideous face of the patriarch of the hidden immortal sect. Before he died, he roared in his heart, who was the one who asked? You caused my tragic death. At this point, 7 of the 10 immortal sect masters were dead. Powerhouses of this level were previously considered to be extremely powerful, but now they were lying in the forest as corpses. It was really a pity. Next, Jun Changxiao raised the ultimate immortal sword and pointed it at Lin Haoyan, saying in a cold voice, it's your turn. From the moment he appeared until now, he had been the most talkative. This made Goshen guess that the invasion of the sect of all times was planned by him. That was right. Lin Haoyan was indeed in charge of the dog extermination operation. He did not kill them immediately because he wanted to let them witness the deaths of several patriarchs, so that they would realize how ridiculous it was to invade the sect of all times. He. Jun Changxiao laughed strangely. Let me ask you, do you regret it? The system was speechless. Suddenly laughing strangely at this juncture, it was easy for the reader to suspect that the host was the villain. Actually, the 10 immortal sects and the sect of all times did not have a good or bad side, because one was defending authority, and the other was challenging authority. No matter who lived or died, they would not talk about righteousness. I regret it. I regret it so much. Lin Haoyan clenched his fists, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. If I knew that you would grow to this extent in such a short period of time, I would have killed you in the void when my sect ascended. You are not regretting it. Jun Changxiao poured power into the sword and said coldly, this is called a not repenting even in death. Whoosh, the sharp sword cut through the void and mercilessly slashed at Lin Haoyan. Based on the previous patriarch's death, he basically had no chance of dodging. Even if he used all kinds of treasures, they would all be crushed together. However, when the sword energy tore through the patriarch's body, it disappeared instantly like an afterimage. Jun Changxiao frowned and said, did he use a divine ability to escape? Bam! Bam! At the same time, the remaining 2 patriarchs also used some kind of divine ability and disappeared into thin air, leaving only smoke that resembled the exhaust of a car. A monk can run away, but can the temple run away? Jun Changxiao put the sword into the space and said coldly, after the battlefield is cleaned up, I will personally visit. Pft! After saying that, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Whoosh whoosh! A breeze blew, and his green hair fell off, and his head became shiny again. Ha ha ha! The system said, overuse, relapse. Jun Changshao took out the magically modified hair growth agent, squeezed out a ball of it, and rubbed his head carelessly. He ordered, kill the rest, don't let a single one escape. Yes. Whoosh. 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 The disciples' killing intent rose, and they immediately rushed over to fight. With the Vermilion Bird King restraining them from the sky, the immortal sect martial artists who had lost their general were destined to be wiped out. They're finally here. Strange, why is the sect of all time still here? After an hour, more and more non-affiliated martial artists arrived at the scene. Many of them were puzzled when they saw that the strongest sect of all time's plaque was still intact. You're too late. The one who came first gradually recovered from the shock and said, the sect of all times has already wiped out all the people from the 10 great immortal sects. I see, what? The 10 great immortal sects were wiped out by the sect of all times? This day was destined to be an extraordinary day. This day was destined to be an eternal day. However, the disciples of the sect of all times who had wiped out all the martial artists from the 10 great immortal sects were now collecting the scattered space rings on the immortal mountain. Patriarch. In the main hall of the sect, Li Qingyang walked over and said, according to the statistics, we lost more than 600 new fighter jets, 10,000 Moang soldiers, and one disciple was injured. Who was injured? Jing Ji. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, it's too embarrassing for him to be the only one injured. After he recovers, follow Mao Xiaodao and clean the toilets for 10 days. Yes. Li Qingyang left and went to the medical hall. Jing Ji, who was full of energy, noticed that her senior brother was coming. She quickly lay on the bed and pretended to be weak. Although I'm dead, I'm still a disciple of the sect of all times, junior brother Jing. Li Qingyang said, the patriarch ordered you to follow junior brother Mao and clean the toilets for 10 days after you've recovered. Ha! Jing Ji immediately stood up and howled, why? Are you okay? I can't, Jing Ji clutched her chest and said in pain, my head hurts. Maybe my soul was hurt after the mech exploded, Li Qingyang roared, what does your chest have to do with your head hurting? It's suddenly changed. In my opinion, junior brother is deliberately lying about his injury. If we send him to the discipline hall, he will face the wall for at least a month. Swoosh! Jing Ji jumped up from the bed and performed a set of military boxing. She said, it suddenly doesn't hurt anymore. Chapter 1659. What happened in the sect of all times swept through the upper realm like a storm the next day. Many cities set up projection screens, playing the scene of the battle between the sect of all times and the 10 immortal sects. For a moment, all the martial artists were dumbfounded. The Vermilion Bird King. When the huge bird beast covered in flames appeared on the screen, it immediately set off another round of exclamations. Speaking of which, from the perspective of the camera, it should be in the sect of all times. Who recorded it? Hee hee. In the study, Li Tian placed a photo on the table and grinned. Not only did I use a formation to capture the entire process of the battle, but I also took the opportunity to take a picture of the patriarch killing the peak of the truth-seeking realm. Needless to say, this guy was very professional. In the photo, Go Sheng was holding the immortal sword of perfection with all kinds of special effects. He looked very imposing at first glance. Not bad. Jun Changshao patted him on the shoulder and said, Jing Ji, that kid deliberately faked his injury. When the new number 66 battle armor is made, you'll be in charge of operating it. Li Tian was overjoyed and immediately declared loudly, I won't let the patriarch down. He had been thinking about the mech for a long time, and today, he finally got his wish. However, when the news reached Jing Ji's ears, she immediately collapsed on the bed like mud, wailing in her heart, someone must be jealous of my high appearance rate, so they said something bad in front of the patriarch. The battle scene was repeatedly played in the major cities of the Upper Realm. If one had to use a word to describe the current world, it would be exploding. As the authority of the Upper Realm, the 10 immortal sects sent out 100,000 elites, but they did not return. This was definitely shocking. 7 out of the 10 patriarch died. This is too terrifying. Something that I didn't even dare to dream of actually happened yesterday. It's a pity that I couldn't witness it with my own eyes. It's one of the biggest regrets of my life. I'm afraid the sect of all times is going to go to heaven in this battle. Please remove the word terrifying because it's already going to heaven. What were the 10 immortal sects? The bosses of the Upper Realm, the supreme existences who meant what they said. The elites they sent out were all defeated by the myriad ancient immortal mountains. In the current world, what other powers could fight against them? If a poll was held right now to determine who was the strongest sect in the Upper Realm, the martial artists who had seen the video would definitely vote for the sect of all times without hesitation. No one questioned him. There was nothing wrong with it. Ding! The host has repelled the invading 10 major immortal sects and caused a stir in the Upper Realm. The host is rewarded with 10,000 reputation points. As the news spread, Jun Changshao, who was in the sect of all times, heard a notification. No way! I'm about to destroy the 10 great immortal sects, and I'm only rewarded with 10,000. From a gaming point of view, the immortal sect was the final boss level in the Upper Realm. Go Sheng had killed 7 patriarchs and 100,000 elites. It was unreasonable to give him such a small amount of reputation points. How much do you want? At least 100 million, and there's no discount. Go to sleep. It can be realized in your dreams. Although Jun Changshao was depressed, he could only accept this reality. Then, he went to the main hall, gathered all the higher-ups, and said, "Is everyone ready?" "Ready." The black and white Rakshasas and the others said in unison. "Okay." Jun Changshao slapped the armrest and said, 3 days later, "Follow me to the High Heaven Immortal Sect." As the saying goes, it is impolite not to reciprocate. You came to invade the sect of all times, so I will definitely go to your house as a guest and taste your tea to see if it's delicious. Do you want to taste the tea? The system said, "You're just greedy for their magnetite." It was strange. With the 10 major immortal sects' current losses, they should be chasing after the victory. Why did Jun Changshao have to wait 3 days? There were 2 reasons. First, he needed to give the martial artists in the Upper Realm time to go to the High Heaven Immortal Sect as soon as possible to watch the show. In fact, it was Jun Changshao who ordered the battle videos to be spread to all the cities. The purpose was to make the sect famous. From the reputation points reward, it was obvious that the effect was good. This time, they were going to the 10 major immortal sects as a guest. At least they could be witnesses when the time came. Perhaps it would help to complete the main mission. The second reason was more serious. Although no disciples were killed in the battle with the 10 major immortal sects, thousands of Moang tribe soldiers were injured and killed. Therefore, they had to be given a grand funeral to comfort their souls in heaven. The next day, in the mountain forest under a drizzle, Jun Changshao, dressed in black, stood in an open space. There were tombstones in front of him, where the Moang tribe soldiers who died in the battle for the sect of all times were buried. The higher-ups and disciples of the sect of all times were lined up neatly behind him, their faces solemn. Salute! Swoosh! Swoosh! Everyone in the sect of all times gave a high-level military salute. Jun Changshao squatted down and put one hand on the tombstone. He looked solemn and said, "Although you are nameless, you died because of the sect of all times. I will remember this and repay you with the blood of the 10 major immortal sects." The last few words were full of killing intent. The Moang tribe soldiers did not join the sect, but that did not stop Jun Changshao from treating them as family. Therefore, the immortal sects must be responsible for those who died in the previous battle. On this day, the rain only stopped late at night. The entire sect was shrouded in a faint sadness. Husband, are you sure you want to cause trouble for the 10 major immortal sects? In the study, Rose of Flowers asked as she poured tea. Jun Changshao clasped his hands together and said with a cold look, I want to destroy these sections. When the first fleet of the astral spirit realm invaded, the 10 major immortal sects sent out a lot of elders, and their strength seemed to be no weaker than your father. If we go to them, we will definitely alarm them, Rose of Flowers said. Although 100,000 elites were destroyed and 7 patriarchs were killed, the threat was not completely removed, because the 10 major immortal sects still had old antiques in seclusion. I know. Jun Changshao said, that's why we have to take the initiative to attack. At least we don't have to worry about them attacking us first. I understand. Rose of Flowers said in realization, Husband, you want to drag the battlefield to their doorstep. That's right. Jun Changshao touched his shiny head and said, it's a little suffocating to be on the defensive all the time. We have to take the initiative. Indeed. The other party attacking and the other party attacking were two completely different things. Why did you take off your hair again? Were you wearing a wig before? I think it looks good like this. There's no need to deliberately hide it. That's not right. Jun Changshao finally came to his senses and roared, it's already the middle of the night. Why are you still in my room? P.S. I can't take it anymore. My brain is about to explode. Tomorrow I may, give me some monthly votes. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.